Somebody in shorts, they think it's summer. I hate that when I have to give up my shorts.
Yes, I wrote it down this time.
The planning,
Karen,
the applications.
are you ready?
They turned it over to me. That's all I know. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that has to be smoothed out.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad we have a large turnout for multiple issues on tonight's agenda. We're going to call the meeting to order. I think it's 6:04,
Okay.
and we're going to start with a roll call.
Mr. Fuensplus?
Here.
Ms. Butler Challenger here. Ms. Kellerman? Here. Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Here.
Ms. Wilson's absent this evening?
And one vacancy
And one vacancy, yes.
we're going to solve tonight. Let's start with civic reflection. For those that haven't been here before, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to do a moment of silence immediately after. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's start our conversation tonight with approval of the agenda. I have one note to this. You will see under number 11, which is normally committee appointments, is just called appointments today. In order to get somebody into our vacant trustee position so we can have a relative full team to tackle the many things on the agenda, Karen and I thought it was well-placed to put the appointment of the trustee there so that they can be sworn in and then start voting on the important things that are happening tonight. So you'll see a little bit of a difference in the agenda tonight. After this, we'll move it back to being committee appointments. Any changes or a motion to accept what we have in front of us?
I'll move to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we've got an agenda. Any disclosures of conflict of interest tonight? Great, then let's move right into public statement one. Welcome, public. Public statement one is limited to 3 minutes per person and is designated for statements concerning items on the agenda tonight. There will be a second time after most of the business is done for you to comment on anything you'd like in the world, but the first is meant to be topical to the agenda. And if you don't have an agenda, there should be copies up at the lectern so you can see what we're talking about today. If you'd like to make a public statement, head up to the lectern. You can introduce yourself if you'd like.
Because we're still on the agenda, are the nominations for trustee on here?
Yes.
They are. I just wanted to give my recommendation for Ray Kopke. I've lived in Bath Township since, my name's Karen Sage. I've lived in Bath Township since 1966, and I know his father, and I've known Ray since then. I think respectfully request that we consider this nomination. I think he's worked as a tireless resident for the benefit of Bath, living on Park Lake and also Park Lake. And I just think he would be a good trustee. That's what I just-
Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome.
Other public statements?
My name is Doug Sage, and I also would like to recommend Ray Gotke for that position. I think he has the interest of the township in mind. He has a lot of knowledge of it, and you won't find anyone who will work harder at finding that knowledge than Ray. He's been a resident here for a long time, which does and doesn't matter. But I believe he would make a good candidate for the position. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, and Karen for that sage advice.
Dean Balzer, Park Lake Road. I'm here about the industrial park. I just don't think it's a good fit for Bath. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Other members of the public?
John Barnard. Been here, lived here all my life, been in manufacturing, had a family manufacturing business and for 45 years, machining, precision, basically the same type of business that they're talking about bringing to Bath. I'm all for it. It's a great, let's say, business that people can, don't need a college education, but skills are out there, working skilled trades right now. There's not people staying involved in this. Everybody's walking away from it. That's why Turkish companies probably want to come here. We have a lot of skills in this area, Clayton County. There's a lot of special machining, small shops. Our business actually folded up in 14 up in St. John, so I'm working for a company in town, but very interested to hear what they have to bring, as long as when they put a facility in, they do it correct. All the ISO standards is 14,000, and that they, are certified ISO 9001, build a facility using local reputable companies. There's a lot of good builders and, like Clark Engineering, anybody, I'm just saying, as long as they use local companies to do the business, union, non-union, I don't really care, but, but really interested to see what they're gonna bring to the table.
Thanks, John. Anyone else for public comment? All right, we have 3 items on the agenda today that will be public hearings. At each of those, you will all also be given an opportunity to make some public comment about that agenda item, so feel free at that time to step back up to the lectern and talk away. Items from county, state, federal, and other agencies. I saw our esteemed county commissioner here. Sorry, Doug.
White Washington, Park Lake Road, and I appreciate the distinguished comment there. I do not have a lot to report today. Last 2 weeks ago, I reported, and not much has changed, but I do want to go over a few things really quickly. Wanted to let you know that Clinton County is looking at its energy plan and how to move into the energy future that needs to be more renewable. And while I think I mentioned before, while that has gone forward and there's discussions going, it is being deliberated at the moment, and there is no hard decision. We are getting messages, resolutions from other counties around the state saying that they do oppose any sort of regulation or state control of renewable energy yards or plants. And so what they're saying is that people do want it, but they just don't want it in their backyard. And so that does put a lot of pressure onto the state to be able to get this done. And I think that's why there's a lot of pressure in Clinton County as to whether or not this is going to happen. But the community is very opposed to it happening at the moment. And there is a fraction of people who are supportive of it. So it'll be interesting to see what does happen. We will be having a public hearing on that coming up. So there will be an opportunity for residents of Clinton County to voice their opinions on it. We've also, in terms of trying to make the environment better, we're pursuing brownfield grants. We've also, to clean up the toxic waste that's been polluting our environmental sites. We're also looking into and discussing thoroughly, because the monies for the opioid research, or excuse me, opioid suit is coming due. So we have agencies that are beginning to ask Clinton County for money to be able to spend those dollars in ways that will help mediate some of the effects that the opioids have had on our community. And I wanted to say that I've spoken before about the redistribution of monies for food stamps, and well, that was a very challenging time for many people in our state. Clinton County is boasting that they have one of the highest percentage rates of being able to get that done and delivered, so that people are reassigned to the redistribution funding. So that's really good news and speaks highly of our social service agencies. And then the last thing I just want to say is that Clinton County has deemed this to be National Homeless Month, and so we are encouraging people to be thoughtful and considerate and to remember that there are people in need, particularly at this time of year. Any questions? Well, I thank you for your time. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Dwight. You too. Now we have a guest from Clinton County Road Commission, Managing Director Doug Steffen. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this evening. I just really wanted to give a general update. The Road Commission made a really excellent year again this year in 2023. Did a lot of great projects. We paved a little over 20 miles of road. We chip sealed a little over 65, and we re-gravelled close to 70 miles this year. So we had another really, really great year. We have a very similar year planned for next year, so we're sorry for the frustration on the roads that some of that work brings everybody, but our roads in the county definitely show all the work we're doing. So just a few updates. Our facility project is complete. We moved into our new building on the 5th of September. We're still working on a few parking areas here and there, some site work, but we do have an open house scheduled for tomorrow night from 4 to 6. The public is welcome. Township officials are welcome. And then directly after that, at 7, will be the Township Officers Association meeting that's held every year in November at the Road Commission. So that'll be tomorrow night. We found out a couple months ago that we got some really, some earmark projects from the state. There are 2 large projects that we received, total of $13.5 million, which is excellent for our region. $10 million of that is slated for the Chandler Road corridor, which is down from the Coleman Road to the north. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of work in there, putting in a 3rd lane, some sidewalks, some infrastructure, working on some sewer, so that'll be a big one. Design is just getting started on that. We probably won't see construction until 2025 for that project. The other one is a section of DeWitt Road in St. John's. It's a rural 2-lane paved road right now. It's from M21 north up to Kinley. We got $3.5 million to turn that into a all-season Class A route for milk trucks to haul through there that are going to the new plant in St. John's. So that one will most likely be a 2024 late or 2025 project as well. We haven't received any of the money yet for those. We've been selected, but we don't actually have the funds in hand probably until sometime early in 2024. Other than that, we're just really happy with the way everything's going. We're really pleased with the township and the leadership here, and Karen and her staff have been great to work with. And we just want to make sure that you guys have all the information. If you have any questions, we're here to help. So I did hand a packet over for some projects for next year. You guys can look them over. I'm sure there'll be some meetings in the future to be had on those. So we did have one project that we didn't quite get finished. I know Ann Drive, Gary Lane, we had tried to get that done this year. That with weather and everything, we're just not gonna be able to get it done, but they did hold the prices for next year, so no price change on that, unless you wanna add something different, but, we'll get that out first thing in the spring. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. Easy group tonight?
Thanks for coming. It's
Thank
really
you.
helpful to hear from you directly and know what's going on, and thanks for the compliments to our staff. I know they're working hard.
Appreciate your time.
You too. Any other county, state, federal, other agencies in the audience today? All right, let's keep moving then. We're at the consent agenda. The consent agenda is routine items that we don't have discussion about, but any board member can pull out item from the consent agenda. We have minutes from the Planning Commission from October 24. Looks like that's it. Are we ready to take action on the consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. We're on to number 8 in the agenda, approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes from the special and regular meetings on November 6th. How would you like to handle those?
We can do them together.
I'm sorry.
Do them together.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meetings held on November 6, 2023. As
Special and
submitted.
regular?
Yep.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about those minutes? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes stand approved. Brings us to number 9, approval of vouchers. Would anyone like to take action on that tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve the November 20th, 2023 vouchers as submitted.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion about the vouchers from November 20th? All right, we're going to do a roll call vote for this.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. No treasurer's report, no treasurer as well. I know she's at home watching, or she's with her family watching. Hello to Jennifer. That brings us to the appointments, and we're going to start out with the vacancy. So if folks recall, our supervisor recently resigned. The board chose to move me from my trustee position into the supervisor position, which just created a whole nother problem in having a vacancy in our trustee position. So we asked for those interested to submit materials to us. We have all reviewed those materials. There are 4 candidates. I think 3 of them are here tonight, and we have 1 via Zoom, is that right? To address us. Each candidate is going to have about 5 minutes to make a presentation of their choice to the board. The board will have an opportunity to ask them questions, and then we hopefully will take action on it after this. Does that sound okay to the board?
Yep.
Do you want to start with Mr. Weatherspoon on Zoom? Would that be easiest, or?
That's fine. Let me get him set up here.
Mr. Weatherspoon, can you hear us? We can't hear you. Give us 1 second.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Weatherspoon, can you hear us?
I have unmuted.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Welcome. Did you hear the format tonight, Mr. Weatherspoon?
I can hear you in a muffled way, but go ahead. Thank you.
We're going to give you 5 minutes to make a presentation to the board, anything you'd like to share with us, and then we've got time for the board to ask you questions. So whenever you're ready, take it away.
Well, I won't take 5 minutes. I'll take about 2 minutes. I am a seasoned veteran and public administrator in government, finance, and schools. My interest in serving at the local level is I've completed my career in most of the consulting work that I've done across the board in terms of education, economic development, school finance, and criminal justice. And now to think about being able to serve in the community in which I live. I have lived in Bath Township since 1985. I have not been involved in local politics. My property is on Old M78, and we've seen a flurry of economic development activities in the corners of Saginaw and Old M78 in the last 10, 15 years. So, and I've also kept myself apprised of the work that's been done on what I call Abbott Road. So the township seems to be growing at a modest rate. And I think that the future bodes well for at least growth in the township. And I am concerned about some of the regulatory things that you probably discussed. I heard some of the presentation by Granger. And in my work in the Department of Natural Resources several years ago, I was confronted with some of the same issues from a regulatory standpoint, and I'll give an example. I was in charge of the MUSFA, Underground Storage Tank Facility Program, and that presented a lot of challenges for local establishments, particularly the gas station owners and communities, except for like local, small airports, small hospitals, and things of that nature. So I am active in the MSU community, and right now I am an appointee chairing the Unarmed Combat Commission for in the department, which is located in the Department of Lara.
Thank you, sir. Board members, questions for Mr. Weatherspoon?
I'm sorry?
We're going to give the opportunity for the board to ask you questions. Sorry
That's
for the
fine.
bad connection.
May
Speak
I
right
ask,
into your microphone, Sherry.
may I ask, what is the Michigan Unarmed Combat Commission? It is totally unfamiliar with.
If you like mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, kickboxing, or boxing, that is the Unarmed Combat Commission. It's codified under Section MLC 403 of 2004.
Thank you.
We regulate all boxing, mixed martial arts events in the state of Michigan. We do not deal with the amateurs.
That's fascinating.
Prior to that time, I was a member of the administrative body of the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. I served on that body from 2007 to 2012. And then I was appointed by the governor to be an emergency manager, which ended up being 4 school districts.
So you are a glutton for punishment then?
To be facetious, my name is Mike. My real name is Mikey. That means I'll eat anything.
Other questions from board members? I think that's it from us. Thank you, Mr. Weatherspoon. I'm sorry you couldn't be with us in person, but I'm really glad that you're able to join us via Zoom.
I wasn't aware of the vacancy until, I think, on the 15th. I hurried up and got a very brief letter of app in. I note that that you're going to consider some of the previous applicants, so I understand if you have already determined who you prefer to be on the Board of Trustees.
Well, whatever happens tonight, I hope you'll stay connected to us and stay involved.
Thank you very much.
Stick with us electronically here and watch the rest of the meeting. We'll see what happens. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, should we take it from the top of the list now? Ms. Hagerman? Welcome.
Thank you. I am excited to be back for a second time that I did not anticipate, but I'm happy to be here to present to you all nonetheless. I know in the last meeting I reflected on my career experience. I've been in public education for 25 years, and we've all gone to school. We know what that entails, but I think the skills that I bring to the Board of Trustees that I've developed over the last 20 years are teamwork. Being a public educator, although as a teacher I'm in a classroom by myself, I'm really part of a much larger team. So working as a team includes implementing ideas, carrying them out from an idea to implementing them in the classroom, finding the resources, as well as evaluating how well that went and how effective it was afterwards. I've been working collaboratively with my colleagues for a number of years, but that collaboration also extends, I think, to my work as a negotiator. I am a representative on my teachers' union. We bargain contracts with our administration, and that's probably been the greatest test of my skills, working with others in sometimes difficult situations, talking about money and budgets, and there's never enough money to meet the needs of what everybody wants to do, but you have to find a way to come up with what can be seen as a win-win for both sides at the end of the day. And I think what I'm probably most proud of is through that entire process that I've been through a couple times now is I definitely believe that our guiding principle is we need to do what's best for kids, whatever that involves. That needs to be our guiding principle. And I think that as a member of the Board of Trustees, that certainly involves or equates to we need to do what's best for the township, even if it means we might have to sacrifice our personal favorites or our personal projects. I'm here to represent the community. That's who we are, and that's the purpose of the Board of Trustees, is to represent the community. And with that in mind, I did want to highlight some of the ways that I have been and am currently a part of the Bath community. I did grow up in Bath Township, so I've lived here a majority of my life. I moved away when I went to college, and when we started a family, we moved to be closer to my work. But about 9 years ago, we moved our family back to the Bath area. My family's here, my husband's here, and we decided that this is the community where we wanted our kids to grow up. In that time, I have been involved mostly as a parent, so my community experience first started off in the perspective of a parent. My kids have been involved in community sports. We've gone to the playgrounds, we've gone to the beaches, we've gone to the parks, we've walked. We're excited about the possibility of more trails, perhaps in the future. We go to the library and all the variety of community events. I really feel that it's important to be connected to the community that I live in. And more recently, I've taken on a greater volunteer role in addition to just the volunteering that many parents do as part of raising kids in schools. I've also helped out with initiatives like Safe Routes to School and some of those other projects that are getting up and running in our community that I'm really excited about. And I also have been on the Bath School Museum Committee for the last few years. I've presented here about some of the really exciting things that we are planning for the future that will help not only the museum, but we believe it will be a great benefit to the overall community as well. I know, additionally, I do want to mention that my husband and I are small business owners. We live on a farm here in Webster Road that's been in my husband's family for over 150 years. And we take a variety of items that we grow and produce and sell them at the farmer's market here in the summer. So I know that the last time there was a few concerns about does being involved cause conflicts of interest, and I think, in fact, being involved shows that you're invested and committed to the community where you live and the people that you interact with every day, and you're willing to put yourselves out there and invest your time and your money and your labor and your ideas, and I really look forward to continuing to be able to do that for our community. And I think I just hit 5 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Hagerman. Time for questions. Board members?
I have a question.
Sure.
You seem to be very, very busy. Will you have time to do 2 Board of Trustee meetings a month plus whatever this other meetings the supervisor decides to put you on?
I believe that I will. I am nearing the very end of my teaching career. I have 1 year left after this current one that the state of Michigan is going to require me to do. So I think that the timing is actually good for me from that respect, that I am sort of looking to wrap one aspect of my life up and start another. In addition, my children are phasing out of needing so much attention from me. So I'm really looking to broaden my horizons, and kind of dipping my toe into local politics is a good way to get that started.
Thank you.
What's it like to have your children not need so much from you? I'm really interested in that life.
It's quieter. I will say it's quieter. Our oldest son
Sounds
is
great.
in his first year of college, and it is quieter. I miss him, but it is quieter.
Other questions? Great, well, thanks for being with us again tonight and putting yourself out there.
Thank you.
That brings us to Mr. Kotke. Is that me?
Hello, Ray Kotke. First of all, I want to thank Karen and Doug for that recommendation. I've never had one of those before. For Jack and Cheryl, I haven't had the opportunity to speak with you. You were absent at the last one, so I'm going to talk right to you two. I got my chops weaned, if you will, right at the age of 18 at Motor Wheel Corporation. Probably most of you here know about that. Was at one time the third largest employer in the city of Lansing. Started out as a fork truck driver with 4 World War II veterans. That the next guy above me in seniority had 20 years seniority when I started out with 0. And I never stopped in wonderment listening to the stories of Leslie Parker, who early in World War II was in Africa as a tank gunner, got captured the 3rd day he was there, and spent the next 4 years in a prison camp in Germany. But anyway, that was a very interesting learning experience. After that, I moved into logistics and studied transportation and logistics management. Rate declassification was coming, transportation rate declassification. So I became a transportation rate analyst, did that for about 2 years, and then went into their private trucking entity. We had about 18 tractor-trailer units and 39 drivers, 6 mechanics. We had 65 company cars. I was in charge for all of that. Instead of renting cars for our corporate individuals, we would actually give them a company car. They would come to us, our pool, and get one. That was very interesting. And incidentally, of those 39 employees, I was the youngest employee of all of them. And I was their boss, and that was interesting. At that time, I was smoking 2.5 to 3 packs of cigarettes a day. And I quit in 1979, so that has since went by the wayside. After I left there, I spent a short time being a salesman in the trunking and transportation industry with one of my clients, or one of my trucking entities that used to call on me. And didn't care too much for that. I ended up the next 20 years being an executive recruiter. I couldn't decide. I didn't know what either a commercial real estate person was or an executive recruiter. And so I asked around, I said, what kind of money can you make doing these? And one was 7%, one was 30%. And so I went with the executive recruiting and did a lot of time doing that. I had my own company, I still do. And that kept me busy a lot. But in regards to the township, I've been on the Park Lake Advisory Board, being almost a lifelong lifelong resident of Park Lake, living on the lake. That's one of my first loves. Spent a great deal of time on the Park Lake Advisory Board. Then I went to Parks and Recreation Commission, or was it a board? I can't remember. And then from there I went to the Planning Commission, which is a great learning experience. I love it. It's really fascinating. And Karen, before you ask, I have enough time to do this because planning is on Tuesdays and this is on Mondays. So
Thank you.
being retired, I kind of fit that in. In fact, one of the reasons I applied was because I have that time, and I think I have a great deal to contribute to the township.
Thank you.
So I'll just stop at that prattling and answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Kotke. Questions?
Comment?
Sure.
Thank you for coming to so many meetings. I appreciate your faces here every
Well, I try
single
really,
meeting.
really hard to get involved and to learn and to, you know, I hear and listen to all the unpleasantries, we'll say, that staff and you guys put up with. And I know you don't deserve 99% of it. So that's one of the reasons I come to the meetings, because I like to know the facts. I'm a person of facts. I'm not a person of conjecture or I heard this and I heard that. I'm kind of a scientist in that respect, so thank you.
Mr. Cockey, either personally or professionally, what do you think is the biggest commitment that you've made to this township, either on one of the boards or just things you've done out in the
The
community?
biggest commitment,
Yeah.
without question, is the Park Lake Trail and Nature Preserve. I've worked on that for over a decade. I'd like to say tirelessly, but sometimes I get tired of it and let it go for a couple of weeks. But I'm sure a lot of you people here have maybe gotten tired of me talking about it. But as soon as we get it in and done, and we can all be proud of it, then I'll sit back and take a breath. Thank you, Karen, my time is up.
Thank
Brenda.
you.
Or Brenda, excuse me. I was thinking of Karen Sage. So, no other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Rounding us out tonight is Mr. Tolliver. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. I am Jeremy Tolliver. I live on Clinton Street here in Bath. First and foremost, one of the things that were brought to my attention was I was a new resident. Well, my family's been here for 40-plus years, okay, if anybody knows the town. Mr. Phillips, I'm not sure you had an opportunity to see my resume, but.
I did this evening, I looked through it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry it's so long, but when you have 20-plus years in construction and whatnot, that's kind of why it's that long. I've been a project manager for most of those years. I work with budgets essentially all the time, every single day, schedule of values, you name it. Also, I'm on the SCUMA board, where I look out for Bath Township's best interests and work with them collaboratively, make sure that the best decisions possible are made. I also know what it means to be a team member. I mean, I've coached from third grade all the way to high school, so I can only imagine how difficult you think that might be with challenges and whatnot, you know, different personalities and all that, so. Other than that, if you guys do choose to elect me, I look forward to working in collaboration with each and every one of you and try to be the best team member I possibly could be. I also look forward in helping not only the township, but also the citizens of the township as well, my best way I can. Questions?
Thank you, sir. Questions?
None.
None?
No more, no.
All right, thanks for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
So that brings us to hopefully the action tonight of appointing the new trustee. We've seen materials from them, some of them twice. We've heard from them, some of them twice. I think we have a good picture of who's in front of us. And to open the conversation, I just want to say we have an incredible amount of talent in the township. And the interest in being a volunteer and raising your hand and putting yourself out there, it's not easy. You all in the audience, those watching, have seen, I think everybody up here suffer some slings and arrows at some point. It's not an easy job to do, so having 4 really talented people raise their hand to be interested, I think, is a testament to the community and their love of the community. So I thank them all for that. And whatever happens tonight, I hope folks will continue to raise their hand and run for office next year. You've got just a few short months to make that determination, and maybe you'll be sitting up here whether you're appointed or not. So there's lots of opportunity. With that, I'll open it up for any other comments, questions, or action from the board on how we want to handle this tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I am prepared to nominate an appointment.
Have at it.
I'd like to nominate Kate Hagerman, please, to fill the empty board position.
Thanks, Jack. Is there a second for that nomination?
I'll support it.
All right. Thank you, Brenda. Discussion about the appointment of Ms. Hagerman to the board. Do you want to give a little background about why you're making that motion? You don't have to. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's all good. You know, this is the first opportunity I've had to listen to people come and present themselves. And I just like the presentation Mrs. Hagerman made, her involvement in the community in several different aspects of it. And I think she can bring a lot to this board to help us look in some different directions here at the board.
Thank you for that. Any other discussion before we take action? All right, I think this needs a roll call vote. Madam Clerk,
Mr. Stevens Bliss?
first?
Yep.
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes?
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes.
All right, well, congratulations to Ms. Hagerman. We're going to take a break here to swear her in and put her right to work on behalf of her new constituents. But I want to repeat to the other three, thanks so much for putting yourself out there. I do hope you run, and if you're looking for any support, help, advice on that, I'm sure many of the board members would be willing to do that. Do I need a motion to cause a recess?
You can declare a recess.
Well, I am declaring it a recess for 5 minutes to swear in our new trustee. Feel free to stick with us, or if you need to excuse yourself, this is a great time to sneak out without making a ruckus. Thanks. Thank you.
Today's the 20th, right?
20, yes.
Thank you.
These are all minutes, agenda.
Okay,
This is the budget.
okay, thank you. Oh my, okay. Thank you. I read through all this earlier today. Okay.
Or if
Just
they
in
even
case I did have any questions.
Ask your question, I don't know if I should ask her behind the scenes or. Maybe she doesn't want us to have. It's tax information about norm fasteners that she sent me. Was she gonna distribute that to everyone?
Okay.
Do you think she'd mind distributing it to everyone? It's really helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't wanna get ahead of her, but it was helpful.
Go ahead and give it to her.
What they would pay in taxes to the township and the other entities, and what it would mean with the tax abatement. Do they have a copy for everyone? You're the best, Taylor. Karen, is there any secret guest you need to go get before we get started? Welcome.
Thank you.
You ready?
Yeah?
All right. Al, you good? Madam Clerk?
I don't know how good,
You're great. You okay? Sherry, you good to start? You good to start? No, are you okay to start the meeting? Great. All right. Sorry. Welcome back. Thanks for that brief recess. I'm going to call us back to order. Please join me in welcoming our new trustee, Kate Hagerman. I hope she's studied up for tonight. All right, the next item on the agenda is appointment of Planning Commission appointments. And I have asked for 2 of these to be put on the agenda tonight. We have 1 vacancy, and we have a member who has been serving in place until being reappointed. And I think it's time to move out of that sort of limbo land that he's in and actually be appointed. So that person is George Baker, and the other person is Jason Elmarigi. I thought it would be nice to give them 2 or 3 minutes to introduce themselves to the board, if there's no objections. All right, let's start with George Baker. You want to say hello?
Hello, George Baker. I appreciate you considering me for putting me on there till the 2026. I greatly appreciate that. And if you decide not to, obviously I will continue to serve in the township in some way or form, even if it's sitting in one of these chairs. So, thank you very much.
Well, the ironic thing is, whether we appoint you tonight or not, you are still sitting in that seat until we appoint somebody else to it. So, thanks. George has been a great person. He sits next to me on the Planning Commission, and I just think it's time to make him a more permanent member. Also, a former Planning Commission member is Jason Elmarigi, also a former board member. Jason brings a lot of knowledge and understanding about planning, as well as the planning that he's doing in his own property at the north side of town. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Congratulations, Kate. Thank you. Jason Elmarigi, 6051 Clyce Road. Most of you know me. I've previously served on the Planning Commission for about 5 years. I stepped off to serve as a board member on this particular board, which was good times. Sometimes, sometimes not. I learned a lot in both roles. I'm looking forward to serving again in this capacity.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from board to our 2 potential planning commissioners?
Are we appointing 2 or 1?
There are 2 slots. You can appoint 0, 1, or 2. Those are your options tonight.
Okay, clear?
All right, thanks, Jason. So what I'm asking you to do tonight is to permanently put George Baker, and by permanent I mean in a more formal state, until December 31st of 2026, and to have Jason Elmarigi fill the vacancy by Dustin Grubau's resignation, and that's through the end of December 31, 2024. Discussion, action, Al?
I would like to take both gentlemen and put them on them committees. I think both of them have shown a lot of knowledge of the township over the last few years, and they will make good members of the committees.
Is that a motion or a comment?
George Baker for December 31st, 2026, and Jason, December 31st, 2024.
That's a motion.
That's a motion.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion about the appointment? The motion is to put both gentlemen on for the dates listed in your board packet. All right, let's take a vote. We can do a voice vote for this. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, welcome to the Planning Commission, gentlemen, or back to the Planning Commission, both of you. For board members, now that we have had some incredible shifting of board member seats over the last 3 years, I think it's probably time we should look at the committees we serve on, what committees we'll put Kate on. Jack inherited some committees. I'm currently sitting on the Planning Commission that I think should move to someone else. So my intent is to ask each of you if you want to stay on your committees, if there are other committees you're looking to move to give us an opportunity to shift around here because of the changing board members. If you like where you're at and you want to stay on your committees, feel free to tell me that. But if you're interested in trying out another committee during this term, here's an opportunity to do that too. So I'll reach out to each of you.
What do we have openings for at this time? Do you know?
Well, depending on if we put Kate on the Planning Commission to take my position, we have technically no openings. We do have a road commission or a road committee vacancy for a board member. We don't have to have 2 people on that, but Al's indicated that that's helpful. So those are the ones that are sort of loose. I know Jack inherited some committees. Maybe he loves them, maybe he doesn't, but it's an opportunity for us to.
Which ones?
Jack does not love them.
Which ones are you on?
Jack, I was giving you some cover there.
I appreciate it. I prefer just to negotiate being reassigned with the supervisor.
What are you on now? What did you get stuck with?
Well, I don't want to say stuck with. I
Sorry.
just simply mean that I didn't give a lot of consideration to committees that I was appointed only because of the way things happened so quickly with the resignation, that I didn't have a chance to really look into those and give my full consideration to them yet. So I'd like to just kind of reopen this and get some different
What
ideas
ones
if I
did you
could.
get put on?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't really know because I've not had the paperwork on them yet
Oh,
because it
okay.
happened so quick, so.
Do you know what he's on?
You're putting both of us on the spot, and neither of us have an answer for it. No, I don't. I
you
should.
Okay, somebody must.
Taylor, could you?
Taylor.
He was put on to Recreation Advisory Committee, Park Lake Advisory Board, and Sewer Board of Appeals.
So my intent is to reach out to each of you to say, here's what we have, here's where the vacancies are. Do you want to move? Are you open to moving? In my first term, I also was appointed to serve a vacancy and got placed on the committees where that person was, and then got elected, and we reshuffled committees. And it was really nice to have a broad view of how all of the committees, or a large portion of the committees, are working. So maybe you have that interest as well, maybe not. So I'll reach out to each of you, and again, feel free to be real transparent and say, I love them, hate them, want to keep them, want to go. And I will propose to us that a shuffle. Does that sound fair to folks?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd just like to add that for those in the audience that are unaware, when I was a supervisor, and you'll find out as the supervisor, you're an ex officio member of all the committees, and you have an opportunity to actually sit on those, see how they work. So it's not that I wasn't exposed to any of them, it's just that in my mind, I think it's important with a new supervisor to allow him the opportunity to suggest where he thinks I might fit the best.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. We're now at number 12 on the agenda, Township Committee Reports, of which we have none. So we're going to move on to number 13, Unfinished Business. The first is items for introduction and discussion, the Norm Fasteners Company Special Use Permit. We're going to start with Planner Robler. And I want to give some nuance for everyone. We have 3 different items for Norm Fasteners on our agenda tonight. One is for the special use permit, which we are not voting on, but we are having introduced to us. One is for the industrial facilities exemption certificate, and one is for creating the industrial development district. So there's lots of opportunity to get feedback from board members and from the public. what I'm gonna try to do is keep the feedback where it belongs. So in this session right here, where Miles is going to introduce us to, is about the special use permit, which is not a public hearing, so public will not be invited at this point to do any sort of feedback, but the next two items the public will. Does that make sense to everyone? In order to keep the business where it belongs? All right, take it away, Miles.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So the land use we're talking about here tonight is a warehouse / industrial establishment. It's been proposed to be roughly about 365,000 square feet. Current total footprint of the proposed site is 19.33 acres. And the entire footprint of the site, so that's parking, drives, retention areas, retention walls, the structure itself. Everything but the structure would be 198,000 square feet roughly, give or take. On November 14th, the Planning Commission conditionally approved the submitted site plan and has recommended to the Board of Trustees, the body before us tonight, that the site plan, or at the special use permit be conditionally approved. The conditions that were recommended can be found in the staff report, which was in tonight's packet, on the last 2 pages of that staff report. Just to add some context to that, this is probably the largest set of conditions I've ever written for a site, so it's quite a lengthy list of conditions. We feel like that's necessary given the planning department, the planning commission feel like that's necessary given the scale of this site and the possible impact to the community. The developer has spoken favorably about working with us through those conditions as we move into possibly a construction phase of this project here. I'd like to zoom out real quick and just briefly talk about how the planning department comes to these recommendation determinations and how the planning commission also comes to those determinations. So if no one in the audience is aware of how the planning process works or what kind of our guiding document is, it's the comprehensive plan. So every community within the state of Michigan is required by the Planning Enabling Act to come up with a comprehensive plan, also sometimes called a master plan. That's then adopted by the community. That's kind of the planning department in any given municipality in the states, like North Star. There's 2 really important maps within that document. There's the zoning map and there's the future land use map. So the current zoning district that this proposed project in is in D development. That's by nature a commercial district. And then within the future land use map, what we have indicated in the community for the land use there would be a commercial land use. So with all the available information and the community's approved documents and plans, that's kind of what feeds into the planning department giving a positive recommendation for this project. And then ultimately, the planning commission reviewing those same documents and coming up with the recommendation they did. The developer and the company are present tonight. Mr. Supervisor, I don't know if you'd like to turn it over to at least the company so they can introduce themselves to this body and the community tonight, if you think that's appropriate.
Yes, I also see the chair of the planning commission is here. I'm wondering if he has anything to add on behalf of the planning commission.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I certainly be glad to add. We've considered this project for probably close to a year. In talking with the developer and the company that's gonna build the project, we've all had a chance to interact with the actual company to actually see the project and the company that they operate over in Turkey. And we are quite impressed with the cleanliness and the method that they process their goods in. The European standards are much stricter than the American standards as far as safety and pollution and emissions, noise. And they're going to comply with the European standards. So that's a big plus, and I think it's a good project for this area, for the location that we're in. It's got accessible to utilities and the freeway. I think it's probably if we're gonna develop this type of an industry in this area, I think it's an ideal location. And the planning commission did approve it by a 6-5 vote, or 6-1, I'm sorry, 5-1, I'm sorry, we're short one commissioner, so It was a 5-1 vote.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right, let's give some time to the developer.
Sure, Jeff Dean with MXN Development. First, I'd like to express a little bit of gratitude to both the Planning Commission and the Township staff. We went through quite an extensive process where each planning commissioner was actually invited to sit down with us for as much time as they wanted to truly, deeply understand what we're trying to do here. We actually put virtual reality goggles on Mr. Supervisor as well as, I think, almost every single sitting member of the Planning Commission, and allowed them inside of the facility and the facilities that the company has that exist currently, so they could firsthand kind of see what the community is really getting itself into. On top of that, we spent a tremendous amount of time with the township planner, who really put a lot of scrutiny into this project. As he mentioned, there's an extensive list of conditions that we've happily agreed to comply to. And we understand that this is a big project for both the community of Bath and for us as a development company, and for Norm Fasteners as our ultimate user of this facility. So we respect that, and we've been both pushing, but at the same time taking our time to make sure that everyone understands what's next and can make an educated decision on what needs to happen. So we have been and continue to make ourselves available to answer any of these questions. And we think this is a huge win for the community of Bath, both from an economic development standpoint. This project creates millions of dollars in tax revenue for the schools, for public services. It creates hundreds of jobs for the community, and really a lot of opportunity for the community of Bath. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you ready for questions, Miles?
Just wanted to stay up here in case there's any questions from the board.
Yes, so what we're looking at in the SUP is land use, right? So that's where we're parking land use questions, concerns in this bucket. Is that fair?
That is fair. That's correct.
All right. Board members, questions about this project?
I noticed it
Go
says.
ahead, Al?
Sorry, go ahead.
Miles, we got a 11-foot proposed drain or sewer drain going across that field. It don't affect their building, I take it?
We're currently working through what we're terming a development agreement with the development team, because obviously we'd like to be in the ground, getting some sewer work done. At the same time, they're in the ground, building this structure and all the accompanying utilities that they need. It's a large engineering feat because of the amount of disturbed earth on site and how the site will be balanced and open. It presents a particular opportunity to us as a township to seize on that period of time and get in there and do some work real quick before they seal it off with a parking lot. So, yeah, we're in talks with them. It's quite an engineering feat, so I'm sure that we will have many meetings with their engineering firm, which is Kebs, and our engineering firm, which is Prine and Newhoff, probably more meetings than the two engineering firms would like to have, but we'll have them anyways.
So it'll be under the parking lot.
Portions of it will be on the larger parent parcel, which are the 40 acres running, north and south. Maybe a smaller portion running east and west out to Webster. But it's a more efficient sewer path than we have now. It'll create redundancies and resiliencies within our system, and it would hopefully, well, it will, if it can go through, eliminate the need for, I think, 2 lift stations. So that creates efficiencies in our system as well, a more sustainable system overall, so. Kind of net wins here.
Thanks, Miles. Anything else, Al? No. Kate, did you have some questions?
It mentions Webster Industrial, is that referring to the entire area?
So it'll be, so the whole parcel right now is that 40-acre parcel, which is off of Webster and, yeah, it's off of Webster. When the new parcel, the 20-acre parcel is divided off of that, it will touch actually Food Court Lane, which has been recently adopted by the road commission to now be a full-fledged public road. And so I think the Webster Industrial, just a name, one of many that this development has been given, That's pretty common. The name I'm still going with in all of our files is Project Forge, because however it originally comes into me, I just stick with that through the whole thing. As this developer knows, Sunrise Forest changed several times on us. It's now called Terra Vista. By its sign out front, we still call it Sunrise Forest.
Anything else?
No.
Go ahead, Sherry.
Are there any PFAS involved in this production at all? In any way, any form of the 20 or 30 PFAS that are known to mankind?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to give a little bit information about who Norm is, if I may.
Why don't you answer that
Sure.
question and then roll into that?
It's a very detailed question, actually. PFAS
Yes.
is very important right now, especially in Europe. Every company is working with these chemicals. It's called, I may be wrong in terms
Polybromated
of
phenols.
hair and flora, whatever.
Polybromated,
Yep, sorry
that's
about that. But I'm not the production engineer. I'm an industrial engineer myself with master's in MBA and business and also industrial engineering as well. And PFAS is a very important subject, especially in the automotive industry. In the last year and a half, there's been a lot of questions and work on this, but it's not clear, finalized yet. So as of now, we've been working with some of our customers to give them a list of all the different coating and plating types that may have PFAS and not have PFAS. So as of today, none of the OEMs have already started using this, but they're working on implementing it as fast as possible. I don't know if I was able to answer your question.
Not quite.
Well, this is something,
Okay.
it's not, in the industry, you know, every company is bound to use the chemicals that are required by the governments and
Right.
also the customers.
My difficulty is Michigan is one of the worst states in the USA for PFAS because of the early auto industry, and we have Clinton River is like 50 times what should be allowed, and the people and the animals, farms are being closed down, animals slaughtered because of the evidence of PFAS. Unfortunately, the government is only testing for one of the many varieties. So my question to our community would be, if I have anything to say about it, if there's any PFAS of any of the 50 or 100 different types of PFAS involved in this huge building, I don't want it in my water supply.
So let me answer you right now, we are not planning to build, because this is a 2 or 3 phase project, we are not planning to start with our own plating and coating facilities. This means we're not gonna do any coating in here today. But as of now, everything in every car part or every automotive you're using, not in every, I will say, but PFAS products.
Yes, that's why Michigan's so
We
bad.
are trying to get away from it as also suppliers to the automotive industry. As a matter of fact, just 2 weeks ago, we sent out a 2-page Excel sheet to one of our biggest customers in the world, which is based in California. I'm not gonna say the name, but you can guess the biggest EV producer. We gave them a whole list, and they're probably the first one to adopt the PFAS-free coating, but it will take time. So if you're asking me, are we planning to do it here? No, not right now. But if it comes in 5 years, and I'm not gonna lie to anyone, because that's who I am, and our company is not gonna lie. Last week, there was our CEO and our vice president of the board was here, and he specifically came to have a meeting here and to tell about who we are. It's a family-owned company. And about PFAS, I understand. We don't want to do it, we won't do it, but, you know, in the world right now, everyone is trying to avoid that. That's all I can say.
Trying, but to me, a guarantee of that, an absolute forbidding it in my community where I live and eat the food here is, like I said, Michigan, people don't all know this, that we are the worst state in the USA for PFAS because of the auto industry and the plating that went on here, and we sure don't want to add any more, in my mind, to our state and our community and our wetlands that we have here, and it goes into the water supply to the wells and comes back, they're closing farms in the area of Clinton River, burning them to the ground because of the PFAS. It's a not very public.
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure that you understand this. Not every coating or plating has
Right.
PFAS in it. So
Right.
we have not decided which type of coating we will implement in the future. So this is something you could discuss. Of course, we have to take that advice into consideration as well. But as of now, all the automotive industry is using products and everyone is working on it. And as of now, there was another speaker here who talked about chemicals and then, about certifications, ISO 14001, 9001, IATF 16949. As our company, we do have all those certifications in place, and I strongly recommend, if you have time, to look into our webpage, normholding.com. You'll be able to see lots of things about sustainability as well, which we are very happy and proud to share our reports every year. And if you have any further questions, of course, I'll be more than happy to tell you about PFAS. Any questions you have, please send it over to me, and I'll get all the responses to you.
Miles, should the project move forward in 3 to 5 years with phase 2 or any expansion, would that come before this board to approve, or is that something that they are sort of pre-approved to do without us?
No, that's a part of this current approval, because the expansion will happen inside the facility as opposed, so they'll build the facility in its entirety and then phase in operations within that facility.
So they have full control over the operations?
They have control. I guess I will say on the PFAS question, I too, my undergrad is in environmental science, so I kind of come out of that realm, at least academically. And I fully understand what you're saying about Michigan's legacy of industrial hazards. I mean, you look at the brownfield map for this state and it's insane. Obviously, the state has invested a lot of money in trying to rehab some of those brownfields. I guess I would just caution to say, future or past inadequacies isn't like a guarantee of like future inadequacies. Just because Ford Motor Company was irresponsible in the 50s and 60s doesn't mean that Norm Fastener has to be irresponsible in 2023. And that's not trying to take any biases here. I'm just trying to give full information, I guess.
Thanks, Max.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, is this about the PFAS?
Oh, go ahead.
I recognize and understand what you were saying. If it would be helpful, I can offer to have SCUMA, so they're going to be taking the wastewater from this plant. And they have been shared with a document that outlines everything that will be released into the water system that goes to DeWitt, where our sewer plant is. And they have no concern at this time. They do, however, have a very intricate process for PFAS and when they are identified and how they're remediated. And if you would like to ask those questions of our sewer authority, I can have him come to our next meeting so he can try to address your concerns if those are located and what that means for remediation.
Yeah, it's a very difficult subject because some of the PFAS are tested for and other PFAS are not. And this is a problem throughout the government, and it's a very complex situation.
I agree with you.
Very complex, and sometimes they don't remove it. They don't have the ability to remove it, and it goes into the ground, and some of the land in Michigan is scorched earth. Completely cannot grow crops, cannot walk on it. It's a much bigger problem than has become public.
So what I can offer is an expert to come talk to us
Yeah, it'd be
about
interesting.
when they receive the water, what will happen, if that would be helpful for this group.
I think that'd be great.
Okay.
No, I was just going to comment similarly, having spent 4 years on SCUMUA's board, I'm sure Mr. Tolliver can attest to this, that Brad Gursky is totally on top of this PFAS issue. They're attacking it as is the state, looking at different methods of compliance and requirements for compliance. And I think that's the first step in the PFAS battle, is that anything comes as part of industrial pretreatment will be treated, of course, when it goes into the system. before it has a chance to get out. So I think that's a very important key point to this whole thing, so thank you.
Go ahead.
Of course, this is a very, well, that's not a new subject, but it's a very new subject, especially in the automotive industry. And as I said, we have shared real-time analysis of our wastewater from our plants in Turkey and shared with the town officials, and also I think they shared with SCUMA too. So we gave two different analysis. One, our analysis of the water compared to the EU's rules and limits and the US's. So this has to be, of course, confirmed by relative parties, but we have not received any questions on those. So as I said, the answer I gave you may not make you happy, but I am not the coding expert. I'm sure if you need additional information, I'll be more than happy to supply all the details. As I said 2 weeks ago, we sent a list, and this is not our parts, this is not our chemicals, we don't produce those. This is the industry's requirements, automotive companies' requirements on their products. They tell us what to use. And we have licenses of some even US companies, European companies, which produce these chemicals, and then they are used in the industry for this reason. But as you said, there has been a lot of discussion, and there's going to be new adaptation in the regulations, and we'll definitely follow them as we have been following everything to the book.
I think any information you can provide on this topic would be helpful to the board.
Sure. As long as it's not proprietary, I will definitely be sharing.
Great.
I guess lastly, I'll just point out that one of the many conditions is that all SCUMA, Southern Clayton County Municipal Utility Authority, standards shall be met prior to a building permit being issued. So they'll have another full review of this once a full set of construction plans are in.
Go ahead, Kate.
I did have other questions. Looking at the site plan here, it seems like there's about 150 parking spots.
Yeah, it's 162.
Okay. I just wondered about traffic flow. Are those all going to be filling up and emptying out at the same time based on shifts? Or is it going to be more staggered? Just thinking about traffic flow on Webster Road. It's already difficult to make that left turn off of the highway sometimes to head northbound. I just wondered how that would play.
Yeah, it's a good point, and we thought about that at the planning commission. We actually think for the township's future growth, in this area, this is actually kind of an ideal land use, because you do get the ability to control traffic flows, which for the example, this was, let's say, like 200 homes. Those people are gonna come and go at will, right? But with this, through scheduling of shifts, we kinda get to help determine when there's gonna be peaks and valleys in traffic counts. And because this is a 3-shift facility, we're hoping that the staggering of those shifts will be, and it's been indicated, because they have incentive to do this as well for their employees and just their facility functioning more efficiently, stagger those shifts off of peak hours. So right now, 8 o'clock, 5 o'clock, busy times right there. So we'll stagger those, an hour out or an hour after those busy times.
That's not in the proposed conditions, is it?
That is not in the proposed conditions.
But it could be?
Could be, could be.
Joe, other questions?
So it is 24-hour facility then? Operates 24 hours?
I don't think so.
24-hour facility.
It's a 24-hour facility, 3 shifts, sorry about that. And we did share the number of employees we plan to employ is about 200 when it reaches the 3-phase, 3rd phase. So that means around 80 people more or less, in one time.
When it's in phase 1, how many employees?
60. 60 plus at the 18 that we are, sorry, 78.
So there will be a little bit of an on-ramping period with this facility where we'll kind of see how things perform as well too. So that will give us a little bit of grace to play around there.
So because, Kate, this is just for discussion today, if you or any of the board members wanted to see additional conditions, we could instruct our planning staff to work with the team on that to bring it back before it actually comes before a vote.
Yep.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Semi-truck traffic, Can you explain a little bit about deliveries or pickups from the facility? And how
Yeah.
that might impede or work with traffic?
Yeah, so we did do some calculations, we were provided, some rough estimates on what the truck traffic would look like. And we really found it to not be, it was actually quite a bit lower than what we thought the intensity of the use would be, if you wanna speak to that.
We're talking about 7,500 metric tons, and if you think of a truck of being able to carry 20 tons, so this is the amount in the first two phases. At its maximum, we're talking about 20,000 metric tons of production. That means 4 trucks coming in a day in raw material, and, you know, of course, they leave empty, but then we'll have parts going out. It could add maybe 8 a day in total. So it's compared to the traffic of the employees, it's nothing.
Okay. Thank you.
Karen, is this a point you want to talk about your sewer memo, or is that for the next topic?
That's maybe for the next topic.
Okay. Other questions then? Go ahead.
George, has the road commission, worked on this traffic, pattern that they were gonna have down there?
Yeah, the planning commission goes through all the authorities, whether it be the municipal authorities with water and also the roads, so they do put in comment on it.
The answer for folks listening at home was yes. I think the developer has something else to say.
Yes, I mentioned that we spent a tremendous amount of time with the planning commission explaining this project and allowing the planning commission time to digest the depth of what it is that we're actually trying to do. I'd like to also extend that invitation to any of the members of the board or any of the members of the public that didn't have a previous opportunity to do that. So Miles has our contact information, so if anyone in this room wants to deep dive into what we're trying to do here, he's free to give out our contact information, and we'll make sure to make time to explain and answer any questions anyone has.
Thanks, Joe. Personally, I would tell you it's worth it. What you probably picturing it is not that. At least for me, that was my experience. So it was nice to be able to see in a real immersive way what we were talking about here. Any other questions? All right, thanks, Miles. So this is scheduled, or will be scheduled, or intended to be scheduled to come before us for a vote in 2 weeks. Are there instructions or questions we want to give to staff that they should handle before it comes back before a vote? Questions or conditions?
I can send the very lengthy article on PFAS to I'll send it to you, Karen, and you could send, it was mind-blowing to me that I didn't know about. And we should read it, take it as you will.
That's helpful, thank you.
I'll do that. It's very interesting and scary.
Any other instructions? Otherwise, this will come as is to vote. All right. You feel good about that, Karen? Great. Thanks, Miles. Thank you to the developer and all the other folks here to share information about what could be the biggest project in township history. All right, so that will take us then to items for action. Our first item is the public hearing on the establishment of Industrial Development District. And our assessor, Ms. Bach, is going to give us an introduction to that. And if you could help us, Beth, understand what piece of the puzzle we're talking about in this public hearing.
Okay. So first, I'm just going to do a little introduction about what a PA 198 of 1974 is. And then I will, I'm going to turn it over to Lee. They're going to do a little introduction, and then I'll take it back over, and then I will let you know what part of the public hearing you're doing first, for you to open that up, then close that, and then we'll go into the second one, if that works for you, Supervisor.
Sounds great, thank you.
Okay. All right, so just for an introduction, Public Act 198 of 1974, known as Industrial Facility Exemption, IFT, provides a tax increments to manufacturers to enable renovation or expansion of aging facilities, but also assist in building new facilities, and to promote the establishment of high-tech technology facilities, like what we're going to see here today represented. So if you look at the screen, parcel A will be where Norm Fasteners is proposed to go. So your district that would only include parcel A, their frontage will be on Food Court Drive. And so that has been taken over. It was a concern that was addressed earlier, but as of last Thursday, the Road Commission has taken that over as a public road. So they will be able to have their access there. And then an industrial facility exemption certificate entitles a facility to an exemption from ad valorem taxes for up to a term of 1 to 12 years as determined by the local unit of government. So that will be your body here as you're recommending moving forward. The applications are filed with the local clerk. The local government moves it forward. The applications are then filed from the clerk to the state. It'll go through 2 different committees at the state, and then it'll end up with the State Tax Commission, with them giving the final approval on the exemptions. So they'll be the ones that actually will facilitate that exemption and grant that certification for them. What that exempts them from is they will be paying a partial millage. So most of the time it's state education tax, they will be paying the full 6 mills. The rest of the taxes for any entity that we have will be paying at a 50% rate. All our taxing entities have been addressed during this public hearing. So if they wanted to, they would be able to address the board and their concerns or their approval. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to LEAP now for their presentation, and then I'll take it back over for them.
Thanks, Beth.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Oh, it's tiny.
You know it's tiny. You guys sent me something little here. I'm trying to figure out that. You guys want to handle that? I'll step aside. There you go.
Whoa! Sorry for the wild ride, everybody.
It's kind of tricky.
And then just do that. We'll find it.
And then just close that old two side if you want on the top left.
I think we're okay like that. Hello, everyone. My name's Keith Lambert. I'm Chief Operating Officer of the Lansing Economic Area Partnership, the regional economic development organization for Ingham, Eaton, and Clinton counties. We also serve as the Economic Development Department by a contract for services with Clinton County specifically. I've been working with Norm Fasteners since 2017. I actually was supportive of them coming into market with the Foreign Direct Investment Soft Landing Project in 2018. That was their very first operations in the United States, a warehouse that now employs 18 people. And in economic development, the foreign direct investment soft landings, the whole premise there is to, with a sales office, with a distribution center, help a foreign-owned company kind of dip their toe into the market and start to get established. And really the crown jewel of economic development is to have a foreign direct investment soft landing get to the point that Norm is now at, where they're looking at creating hundreds of jobs, investing tens of millions of dollars into a large-scale facility. So that's really the rationale for being before the Board of Trustees of Bath Township today. You can see the numbers presented in your packet. I think Beth is going to continue to kind of go through what it looks like in the context of the district right now, which the public hearing will occur shortly, and then the exemption for the industrial facilities tax exemption. I think the general premise is that when a company is making this large scale investment, it's a tremendous risk. And the rationale for Public Act 198 is to support by mitigating their taxes for a certain period of time as they bear that risk and get to a point that there's a return on investment, which doesn't happen overnight. And when you're investing $78 million into a project like this, it is a tremendous risk for a board that is based in Turkey all the way across the world, and they have to make a business decision at the end of the day. And there were a variety of competing sites, locations across the state. We supported them through a real estate site search process with the development team. And it was really a tremendous effort looking at dozens of sites, and they've landed on Bath Township as their preferred location in all of North America. So we're really happy to see where they are. In general, the overall kind of premise of the project is that there will be a competitive landscape for property taxes. So at any location in the region or in Michigan, it presumes that a Public Act 198 abatement would be in place. So if that's not the case, it changes the competitive landscape and makes other alternatives in different states more appealing. So that's really important in the context of LEAP's work with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and the kind of overall package of support that the state is considering. MEDC has been great in terms of putting together a package that is the top option for the company. That's where we are today. And it's very important to fully understand this IFT abatement request in that context of broader support for infrastructure dollars for Bath Township, the local site, the local community, SCUMA, all the relative players, additional programs that support the job creation of NORM, partnerships with Michigan State University, Lansing Community College, Capital Area Michigan Works. So that's kind of the holistic view. Related to IFT itself, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know Beth has a great understanding of how the tool works. It's two-step with the district putting in place. Once the industrial facilities or the industrial development district is in place, a company can apply for our industrial facilities tax exemption. The district must be in place first. We can do them simultaneously, as is the process that's proposed here tonight. It's really important in terms of the timeline of the company to get up and operational that within the time frame of December 4th, the following meeting, which I understand is the intent, that decision is taken, and we would really appreciate that consideration and are hoping that there is approval to be had for Norm Fasteners to make Bath Township their U.S. manufacturing beachhead. Happy to answer any questions that the board has related to the numbers or anything that we can do as your regional economic development organization and county economic development team.
Keith, can you talk about how this landed in Bath?
I'd be happy to, yeah. So there was, I mentioned a pretty robust site selection process. The Lansing Economic Area Partnership, we represent a tri-county area. So we were really focused on keeping them in the Lansing region. The initial warehouse was in the city of Lansing. They have a great relationship with them, Axion as the development team. Then they were in Windsor Township for a number of years. And that was always kind of in order to set up the sales and get to the point that they could justify U.S. manufacturing. As soon as that happened, we took the site requirements and looked at dozens of sites across just the Tri-County area. They were looking at existing buildings for a little while. They have a very unique need in terms of ceiling heights in certain parts of the building. So it became readily obvious, even across the entire state, that there was not a building that was going to exactly suit their needs. So then we focused on vacant land sites. In the context of vacant land sites, we were looking at zoning, planning from local entity standpoint and trying to find a suitable land site. This particular site was identified by the developer. So LEAP had done a site search of the Tri-County area, came up with a few dozen different options. We had some preliminary conversations with a few different municipalities that were extremely excited about this project. And after a lot of deliberation and different discussions with communities, we got to the point that a shortlisted site here in Bath Township became kind of the optimal location. And for a variety of reasons, the logistics advantages, that we were able to talk through and kind of point to the interstate connectivity, the existing plan for the property here in Bath Township. It became just that site that really looked good and like the best opportunity for them to create a workforce and continue to partner with the community, the schools, as well as the higher education institutions that are nearby.
I assume because of what you've said and what your job is that you think we should support this work. What would be the argument for us? What would convince you that this is the right thing to do for your community?
I think in the context of this project, I mean, I know a lot of people have different views of incentives. I mean, you hear things like corporate welfare, you hear things like picking winners and losers. The whole idea of Public Act 198 and the reason it's enshrined in state law is because Michigan understands that we want to keep making things in Michigan. And the whole idea of the tool, not everyone qualifies for it. It's for manufacturers, it's for high-tech companies, it's for headquarters, it's for very specific users, and it's really only beneficial to a company when they're making a sizable investment. So it's really a perfect fit, for what Norm Fasteners is intending to do checks all the boxes. And the township operating would see $17,000 and then appreciating from there with this facility built with the abatement in place. So the beautiful thing about a 198, it's not like a Renaissance zone where it's just zero tax, right? And that's, I really get the critique of that program. To not have a payment in lieu of tax, you know, that's very difficult. Altium and Delta Township is dealing with that right now. We're administering the infrastructure dollars to help that project go forward, but, I mean, that's difficult. A 198 is a true win-win in the instance that it's a but-for, meaning that but-for the incentive, the project doesn't happen. That's the case here, right? This support is part of the overall picture with the state of Michigan and a locality to make this project able to be competitive in a location in Michigan. So that's the critical piece. And township operating gets tens of thousands of dollars. The schools get hundreds of thousands of dollars once it's up and running. That's all brand new to the state of Michigan, to Bath Township. So as long as you believe that the project is not able to proceed but for the incentive, it's a tremendous windfall of new revenue for all parties. So that's, I think, the overall appeal to, you know, why a 198 makes sense, because there is new tax revenue generation and a tremendous level, really, to, you know, to EMS, to the schools, to all the different taxing jurisdictions. It's not asking you to lose anything. It's asking you to, in public-private partnership, share the risk, share, you know, take a cut on what you could receive in order to make a project happen. So it's the idea of 100% or 50% of a big pie versus 100% of nothing is very much the premise of a project like this.
You've mentioned foreign investment a couple of times in programs to support that. You've probably seen elsewhere in the state that people are a little bit weary of that. Why should Bath Township residents not be weary of that?
I've been to Turkey, I've been to Norm's facilities. I would say, particularly in the context of Turkey, you know, the geopolitical, you can do a lot of research and come to a lot of conclusions, but what I've found is that Turkish executives and Turkish people, there's already a lot of continuity and connections with Michigan State University in terms of faculty and students. And Turkish companies are very eager to invest and diversify across the world. And the United States is a great place for that. We're very welcoming for immigrant communities. Karai and his wife and his family have been settled here in Okemos over the recent years. And, you know, they're eager to bring on 200 local people in that context, but having that cultural connection with the university is really important. And I think it's important to embrace that, you know, the Lansing region and Bath Township's right there in the heart of it, you know, just north of a university with 50,000 students that is getting more and more diverse every year. They're getting back to the pre-pandemic levels of international students. I mean, that's here for us, and it's something we can leverage in our schools, and, you know, higher education is already very much doing that. So, you know, again, there can be a critique of welcoming investment from different countries, but in my experience, Turkey is a U.S. ally and a very important country geopolitically, and they're also a country that wants to invest more in the United States, and, you know, we've been opening those doors to help make that happen.
Thank you. Other questions for Keith? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have before you the establishment of the industrial district pursuant to Public Act 198, which we saw on the screen. This is the time for the first public hearing for tonight before you, and at this time I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor Fewens Bliss and the board to open the public hearing.
Thank you. So my proposal to you, my colleagues on the board, is that we open the public hearing by a voice vote. We close the public hearing by a voice vote to show that we're all supportive of going into a public hearing and exiting it. I know we've done it both ways over time. That was a recommendation from our council to vote ourselves in and out. And the way I would propose that we do this is allow the public and the taxing authorities who are here to ask questions, share concerns, share support, to have their time at the microphone, and then bring the petitioner back up to answer any of those questions or concerns, and then wrap it up with board and staff last comments. Is that fair for folks? That sound like a good idea? All right, then I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing specifically on the establishment of the Industrial Development District.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion about entering into the public hearing? All right, voice vote is okay for this?
It is.
Thank you. So all those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? All right, so we'll open the floor to any of the other taxing authorities that have been welcomed here by letter to share your thoughts, ask your questions, or any other members of the public.
Can you explain again what we can address in the questions?
Yes, this is about the formation of the district specifically.
Not about the company itself in that area?
No.
Oh.
It's hard to extricate the two, but in this sense, it's about the district. Sure.
All right, cool. Chris Hagerman. So I just had a couple questions. I don't know if they fit in the realm. That's why I asked. So first of all, you said highway or semi-truck travel through here was not going to be that great. I know it's right by the highway, but I know that increases the infrastructure for roadways. We're going to have to really increase the infrastructure for that. So that was one of the first thoughts that I had, that's something we focus on. I know Webster Road is due for reconstruction here soon, so I think we really need to consider that if this is the way it's going to go. Secondly, like the land use, I saw the map a little bit, but how close is that to Drumheller? That's what I want to know. It looked like it was still pretty significantly away from it, but a small town guy, the last thing I want to see is a bright light of Lansing out by the highway. Light pollution is a big thing for me. We like the small town aspect of what's going on here, and I know that's far enough away. However, I think that could sort of blend in over to our nice small community we got going on there. And then lastly, well, I guess the semi-truck traffic is how far are we gonna allow them to go? Now, I know that we can sort of determine how far they drive into our community. I think if it is Drumheller, that they can't, if it does go that far, again, I don't know, I couldn't tell on the map, that they shouldn't be allowed to drive past Drumheller Road. I think that should be, having those semis drive through there, try to make a cut through, up to Chandler and then try to cut through over to 127 as a shortcut or something, that's gonna destroy our roads and stuff. So I think we really need to focus on where those trucks, can drive inside of our community. And I think if it's not gonna be, past Drumheller Road, then I think that should be our cutoff point. So,
Thank
sorry
you.
if I was outside your realm there, but I wasn't sure, so.
I would argue all of this is inside the realm of creating an industrial development district.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Dan Schultz. I'm a resident of 5482 Drumheller Road in Bath. I am the adjacent neighbor on this property that's being considered for this development district. So I have some concerns about the placement of this proposed facility. It appears that the proposed structure will be built along the property's west boundary line, which is also my east boundary line, my property line. And as the adjacent property and homeowner, I'm concerned about the potential negative impact that this project poses in terms of diminished property value for me personally, and also concerns about increased noise and security. In terms of noise, a large production facility, potentially operating 3 shifts, as was mentioned, with a high volume of truck and other vehicle traffic, is likely to become a very noisy neighbor. The proposed removal of an extensive number of hardwood trees in the site development will significantly reduce an existing natural buffer that would help mitigate some of the noise levels. I'm wondering what type of noise prevention barriers the Township Board can recommend for this project, such as retaining walls, berms, or sound buffering. This is a big concern to me. Another concern is surface water runoff and drainage. The proposed project's roof, driveways, parking lots, and other paved surfaces will produce extensive surface water runoff and increase the risk of greater flooding on adjacent properties and wetland areas. Changing weather patterns are already producing periodic ground flooding, particularly near paved surfaces where runoff along Drumheller Road. The northwest corner of my property on Drumheller is a wetland area, and currently rainwater runoff from the east, west, and north naturally drains through my wetland. I also maintain and stock a pond on this property, and I'm very concerned about potential groundwater contamination from proposed project surface and parking lot runoff containing oils, ice, snow salts, other pollutants, including PFAS pollutants. In terms of security, as the adjacent property owner, I'm concerned about the proposed project and the number of vehicles that will be passing around this property, and wondering about whether the Township Board will require adequate security fencing, surveillance cameras, and other monitoring technology.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Are there other members of the public that have questions, concerns? Thank you.
Katrina Greeley, also a Bath resident. Question for you guys. If this becomes industrial, where do we propose putting that agricultural land that's currently there?
Thank you. Other members of the public? All right, should we shift toward addressing some of those questions, Madam Superintendent?
Should it open or close, or do it during?
I anticipate the answers may require more back and forth.
I would say proceed with the answers to those questions so we can have dialogue back and forth.
Could you pull up, or someone pull up a map of the property that we could show?
Do you want me to pull it back up? That would be fantastic.
Miles, I imagine you're a good candidate for answering some of these. Can we start with the road infrastructure question from Chris? You can sort of Oprah the microphone. Phil Donahue, I guess.
Just give me a second to get to the packet, so I can pull up the map.
No, that's right here.
All right, why don't you do that while I ask Karen some questions that I think you could answer. Is there some sort of agricultural offset that we would be requiring, expecting? Would ag land be created elsewhere to offset the ag land that's being taken up by this industrial development?
Not to my understanding. I understand that when the new owner purchased the property, he allowed some of the ag to continue. And I think that it may continue in some fashion on the, I'm looking at the owner of the property to understand if some of that would continue on the property or if this project would basically eliminate that use from the property.
Mr. Kessler, can you speak to that?
For the time being, it won't stay, there won't be much ag, because in order to balance this site from front to back, we've also offered the road commission, they're gonna redo Webster Road here, and you got that main dip as soon as you go by Drumheller. If this project goes, there's a couple things that'll happen. One is, we've offered to turn around and fill that dip, and also the east side of the road, which the road commission give permission where they want to build that new sidewalk. And we would do that at a free of charge, because we're gonna have the dirt to do that. That's gonna disturb as far as the farmland itself. The other thing we've offered to do, if this project goes, and it goes along with Skaboa, the sewer, they have a 40-foot easement from east to west to run this sewer line that they wanna put in, that's 60 inches. And it's down there at 25 foot, is the depth of the, and if this project goes, I'm willing to let them start to go west, but then cut across this property where the ground is, sand, solid, all the way over to Drumheller, and they won't end up going down through that wetland and the swamp that the state owns. So to answer your question, though, there won't be much as far as farmland left. Do we have a plan for the rest of that? No. We've had other people ask as far as to build something there, and we haven't been interested. But, that land will end up being leveled out, and along Drumheller, that will be filled also. But the wetland it's in the woods, and about 80% of that woods will stay there. And that's our intent, is never to take, and, as far as trying to fill it or anything or anything.
As the landowner, are you concerned about the loss of agricultural land?
Not really. This township, I've been here since '72, and all I've ever heard is they never had any tax dollars to do anything with, as far as the schools or anything else. And we've helped, when I developed the corner down here. We had the same concerns, nobody wanted to see that corner built. Eventually it was, and of course it's being used. You know, there's a, progress is, I like the small community, don't get me wrong. When they first asked me about this, I was a little leery. But afterwards, seeing what they do and how they do it and what it would provide for this community, tax dollar wise, school wise, I've got to do a ton of work to level that in order to sell it. And what's left with it, someday something will be built on it. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Katrina, does that answer your question?
Thank you, Mr. Kessler.
Can I speak real quick to that too, just
Yeah.
to reiterate some of that too? So just so everyone knows, and I'm sure as the MEDC has been finding out, there's not too many sites like this left in the state. So this is right off, I mean, seconds off of the highway exit. It's got phase 3 power, it's served by gas or sewer infrastructure. I mean, all the major things that a site needs that are in the ground, expensive things, millions of dollars of things are right here. So, as Mr. Kessler stated, it might not be this project, it might not be this year, but just as a planner that's worked all over the state, something's going here in the next 10 years. So
Can you talk about road infrastructure?
Road infrastructure, yep. So, the road, traffic and, draw on our infrastructure is obviously a concern. So, kind of the whole job of the planning review is to shore up the township's liability and, try to get the best result for the citizens of this community. I guess we're fairly alleviated by our road concerns because they do have such quick access to the highway. I could see a situation if there's some construction going on possibly next year, where there could be a situation where they might have to divert to Drumheller. But I don't think it would be in their incentive to ever use Drumheller. I think they would prefer to always take the fastest route, which is the highway. Now, if some kind of condition could alleviate that, just so we can get it in writing, that there is no, I guess I would like to keep the option available, like if there's construction going on the on-ramp or off-ramp, to not have to shut down operations, we give them some flexibility in using an alternative route in that rare case where an on-ramp or off-ramp is shut down, but in any other situation, any normal, traffic configuration, they would find the quickest route on and off the interstate. I think that's a condition that we'd all be amenable to. I don't see why there'd be a downside from you guys as to roll with that condition. And if it would make the board and the community feel better, that's what we're here to do.
What about semi-trucks?
The condition would speak to semi-trucks. I don't think we'd be able to control that condition because people might live north, they might have to use Webster Road to get to work. As we've seen Webster Road's residential traffic volumes grow over the years. I mean, we've done recent traffic counts, and I was surprised. Webster Road sees about 6,000 vehicles a day right now.
And what about noise from semi-trucks?
So any noise on this site will have to live within our noise ordinance. If they're violating our noise ordinance, then somebody should call the code enforcement officer or Bath Township Police so we can cite them for a noise violation.
And is the noise ordinance hours of day?
There isn't been any limit on hours of day placed here, and nor.
No, I'm talking about the
No, our-
noise ordinance.
Our ordinance does, yes.
So if Dan was hearing semis at 1 a.m. is my point, he could
Yes.
call up
That's correct. And
the
thank you,
township.
Superintendent, for pointing that out.
Great.
Can you speak to, I'm trying to find it in the staff report, can you speak to the buffer that Mr. Schultz is concerned about?
Yep.
And if the planning commission did anything unique to try to buffer the noise?
Yeah, we did. As Mr. Schultz correctly stated, this property is looking, or this proposed site is looking to buffer his property. What we've tried to do is, first of all, there's minimum buffering that has to occur when any land use abuts what we like to call a sensitive land use, so a single-family home would be a sensitive land use. So they've gone outside that buffer from the get-go, but then we in addition required additional buffering. So they had some landscaping here, they had the proper distance from that land use, but then we required further distancing, and then an additional row of pine trees along the entirety of the site. Pine trees are a species we like to use a lot at the planning commission, because they do a good job buffering noise, buffering light. And then with the whole buffering conversation, we'll roll into the lighting. So we've talked about noise, lighting was brought up.
Yeah.
So our township has recently enacted a new lighting ordinance, which I guess was appropriately timed prior to this. Most of that ordinance is dark sky compliant, and then there's parts of it that go beyond dark sky compliance. And then the developer, also, I think, is a fan of seeing the stars, happens to live in this area. On the projects we've worked with the developer in the past, we actually think they're lighting some of the best in the township. So we're gonna try, and I'm not just saying that, it's a fact, it's not my opinion, the lighting is the best in the township, that's a fact. Like, if we go out with a netometer and I measure the light on the site, it would be better than the other areas that we could look at in the township. So, I'll always try to say when something's my professional opinion versus when something's just a measurable fact. So when it comes to lighting of the site, there's a lot of areas of the site that give me a lot of pause and concern, and that's why we have 2 pages of conditions. There is a condition about lighting, but lighting is by no means one of my concerns on this site.
Could you talk about surface water runoff and groundwater contamination?
So surface water runoff is one of my concerns on this site. So we will be working hand in hand with the township engineer, their engineer, and the Clayton County Drain Commission, which I have every confidence in that they will be able to do their job and mitigate our concerns in that area. This company will not receive a building permit until we have plans that reflect that all concerns have been addressed.
Can you speak to where the water will be directed on
Yep,
the site?
someone go ahead, just so we can see. I'm trying to roll through these as fast as possible so we can get back to talking about taxes.
Just for a point of clarification, was that the footprint of the project that you had up there in blue?
That was a rough footprint of the proposed 19-acre site. So I draw that from hand, so I don't wanna say, I could be off by 10 feet. So this is the current rough, topography, obviously, it's satellite imagery, LiDAR, so it's not exact, but right now you can see where the site would be proposed, where the structure would be proposed is kinda on this high. The developer is gonna, have their work cut out for them. The owner spoke to how much dirt they'll have to work with on this site and balancing the site and the engineering challenges there. But currently, the water flows north and south to get off of this high. We would like to maintain that drainage pattern, and we will be directing the water probably 30% of the site-ish, give or take, north, and then about 60% of the site south to the MDOT wetland area here in the MDOT right-of-way. And all permitting will be required through MDOT, Eagle, and our Drain Commission to see that that's all done above board. And trust me, state and Eagle, there's probably to the developer's chagrin, is not a quick permitting process. So good luck to you guys with that.
Does that impact the food bank at all, the 60% of the water moving south?
There will have to be some agreements with the facilities to the south put in place.
The last item I had in my notes from our guests was security.
Security,
Can you
yep.
speak to that at all?
Yeah, all credit where credit's due to our police chief. He wrote excellent agency review, speaking to the security concerns on a site of this nature, and has several requirements that he'd like to see, and those are a condition of this site's approval, including gating, fencing, security cameras. As I'm sure the developer and the company Norm Fasteners has, as it's been stated, a large investment here, so I'm sure they're actually quite concerned about security on the site as well.
Can you talk about what those conditions mean? You've said it a couple times, but I think it's helpful to reiterate that we have the potential to set out the conditions. What does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah, so it depends on what the condition is and, when we felt like when the township felt like the appropriate time for that condition to be met is, on when it will get ticked off the list and something will be given to the developer. That could be a building permit, that could be certification of occupancy. So like for the security camera condition, for example, that one, they don't have to have all in place when they get a building permit, because it can't really, they need to build to be able to put the security cameras, but it is in place prior to C of O, so certification of occupancy, so prior to the building being able to function, for that's granted to the developer. Our staff at the township will go in and do an inspection, the police chief, the fire marshal, of all the security measures on site, making sure it meets our standards before they're given C of O. So basically, what I'm saying is, they will have to do certain things before they get the approvals from us to move forward with their project. This is typical of land uses that require a special use permit, and to this point, with this project and projects in the past, we've always been able to work, I would say in good faith, with the Maximum Development to meet those conditions.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the public? Please step up to the microphone. Miles will slide aside.
So based on the proposed plan, where is the loading docks gonna be located on the building?
Yep. Yep, so on the south side, I believe there is, some, yes, secondary on the north, yeah, not on the east and west. So that hopefully will minimize noise and light on the, concerning side. And also, one of our big concerns was making the site aesthetically pleasing to the community. So we didn't really dive into that tonight, but we're hoping as people are driving down Webster, this site, for as large as it is, there's a number of ways that we try to mitigate. It's not gonna be like some monolithic building that you'll be looking at, through how the site, it's placed on the site, where its footprint is at, the depth of height of the structure, and then using a variety of materials and things. And will help it, we hope, well, not we hope, I mean, we're trying to guarantee it here, that it will bring a good entrance into the community and keep land values high.
Was there a reason why it was pushed so far back to the west boundary instead of closer to Webster Road?
For that reason, to try to keep a monolithic building from being, the first thing you see when you turn into the township. And I think the office, well, I don't think, but the office of the structure will be right up front, that's usually in these larger manufacturing facilities, the office portion of it's kind of the nicer looking side of the building. So, and then anything else is just gonna be buffered by retaining walls and, a series of rows of landscaping.
Thank you, Miles.
Sorry,
I have one more. Nope, you can have all of them that you have.
So you've done noise tests, you've done soil testing. Have you guys done any research as to what it's gonna do to wildlife in the area?
Yeah, wildlife, I guess that is not something that we've looked at. No. No, we've done, I mean, yeah, we felt like we've done a pretty exhaustive agency review on this. I guess it's not typical of my department to reach out to any wildlife agency. This is a larger than normal, not larger than normal, but it's a large project for Bath for sure. I guess I don't foresee a major impact since right now it's agricultural. I mean, and deer won't be out there in the field grazing as much. Yeah, obviously they'll have to comply with all the state regulations. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I can't really speak to that, I'm not an expert in that area, I'm sorry.
So if you remove that many hardwood trees, you're going to impact wildlife.
Yeah, for sure.
Other, go ahead, John. Could you, I'm sorry, could you go up to them? The people at home can't hear anybody who's not in front of the microphone.
John Barnard, 5717 Chestnut Street. Also, family lives on Drumheller Road, the next road, property over, 5236 Drumheller Road. It's my mother's, 10 acres. My question is, being from a manufacturing background and have built a facility in St. John's, your loading and unloading of steel product, are you gonna be bringing in bar stock, or are you bringing in rolls or sheets, rolls? Wire rolls? Do you have an indoor facility to unload those? They'll be pulled in like a train on one end and out the other so you can scrub. Also, your industrial waste from grinding or turning, will that be run through a centrifuge, and do you use synthetic coolants or do you use some bio coolants?
I have to check with that, I'm not that, I don't have that information right now, but I'm going to have to check, because we don't want to have CNC, I mean, we plan to have CNC machines, but not for production, for tooling.
So you do special machining?
Cold forging.
Cold forging, so no coolants. But you still have the heat and the slag and, I know the acid baths and stuff like that would be the new, I mean, we did parts, nickel plated parts and stuff like that, but we, of course, sent that downstate. Like Selfridge and stuff like that, we did chrome plating, nickel plating, all that, but have, you know, the testing, and there is chemicals that you have to use to do the testing process to make sure you're getting what you pay for. So there's labs involved and stuff like that, so, you know, which they did say, I know that, the stringent certifications that you gotta have in the UK and all that is more above than what we have to do here, but now with the global economy, which basically, will you be using US steels to manufacture your product?
Currently, we are working on that. We have been working with US steel manufacturers, mills. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting today to use only the US steel.
That's, make it here, you know? So, that was the reason we weren't able to get US steel to manufacture products, and quality steel from China basically put us out of business because of the quality of the steel that we had to produce, and we couldn't produce any quality parts because we were making large products for Caterpillar and couldn't get the large enough bar stock in a quality, you know, so I know you're making small products, bar and Swiss machines, like that'll be a different, but the plating and stuff like that, I can see your concern, but that can all be contained by the infrastructure, what they put in place, and test wells put around the facility and things like that, if that's in the plan. You know, there is a lot of the trucks coming in and out and stuff washing off the bars and, you know, oil on the, you know, materials that you're bringing in that come off the truck, it's, you know, a concern. That's all I have.
Thanks, John. Other questions, concerns from the public to be addressed tonight? Last call? All right, Beth, you want me to close the public hearing before we finish it? Okay. So I'll ask my colleagues for a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the public hearing is closed. Beth, do you want to wrap us up?
Sure. Well, thank you. This will come back before you at the next meeting for you to vote on. Any questions or concerns between now and then, please address them to Miles or myself. I'll just be able to give you that perimeter and the outline, but he'll be able to answer more questions on that aspect of it. So next we'll move into the next public hearing, which the.
Before you do that, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Did you
Yes.
want to talk about your sewer memo here?
I can.
All right.
Thanks.
Sorry to interrupt you. So from the very start of this project, and its commitment to try to move, into Bath Township, the sewer has been, complicated, to say the least. Having the money to do it and to do what we need to do to support the industry, has all been complicated. Prior to my leaving on vacation, we were talking about applying for a grant, which we did successfully apply for that grant. And there is an indication that there is money available to us, although that decision will not be made until the 12th of December, when the incentive for the business is also being considered. So what I wanted to let you know that we worked out an agreement with the developer to front some of the money that we need to be able to engineer this process and the infrastructure that we need. This helps us try to stay ahead of the process and get to where they are when they're ready to start working in the ground. The engineering firm of Prine and Newhoff had indicated to me that even if we started today, we were already behind. So having the ability to begin engineering this project is huge for us, and it's huge for the timing of their work as well. So I'm happy to report that we were able to work through that and find a successful solution for both parties.
Great. And is this coinciding with the work on Webster, or will this disrupt the work, or will it come after the work? Like, how is that timeline playing out?
So I can't answer, the work on Webster mainly is a mill and fill. So it is, a traditional, they're gonna take up a couple of inches of asphalt, and then they will again lay down a couple of inches of asphalt. In addition to that, they will be adding some trails, and when I say trail, non-motorized trail, it indicates sidewalk. So that will be occurring on the opposite side of the road from this project. In an ideal world, we will all work together with the road commission to ensure that this can all happen at the same time and that nobody's being impeded. What I can tell you is we have excellent partners with the road commission and with the drain commission on that. I believe they will all in good faith work together with the township and with the developer to make sure that there's as little disturbance as possible.
Great, that's helpful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any last questions from the board about the district piece? All right, Beth, back to you.
Okay, so we have an application that's been presented by Norm Fasteners Company for the property over here off of Food Court Drive. They're proposing to put in a building that will be about $31,669,218. This does not include the cost of the land. Land would not be part of this application, nor would their personal property. Personal property will fall under an EMPP, which is an industrial facility tax. So that would be separate. Prior to 2018, I believe. Personal property could be included on here. Our last IFTs 12 years ago had personal property on there, but it's because of the change in the law that has been moved off of there. So you'll hear some different numbers coming out on how much Norm Fasteners is looking to bring into the community as a whole, but this will only address what the real property improvements would be. So I just want to keep that clear for the board as you're looking at this. And they'll be bringing about 200 jobs after the fulfillment of the total commitment. So that will be their application. And I'm not going to go over like the different parts of it because you just had the SUP and that's kind of how we formulated this so that you're not having to hear it the same thing over and over again. But if there is any questions along the way, we'll be glad to answer those. So with that, I will tell you, we did a projection just off of last year's taxes, and I believe that maybe I don't have it. I just have it here.
You're back.
Yeah, let me check. Sorry about that. So for what this would do for Bath Township, so half of our Bath Township allocation, estimated taxes, and this is basing it off of 2022's taxes, would be about $66,788. And then our police and fire for us, for that half a millage would be $56,000. No, this is a full amount. So the half, then we would be receiving half of that for tax purposes. So hopefully that'll help you understand a little bit more of that on what those will be bringing to the township board and help you to be able to understand that later on. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, Supervisor Buens Bliss, for you to open your public hearing and be able to answer any questions after that.
Can I seek some clarity before we do that?
Sure.
So what you've provided to at least the board up here is the property tax projections, this top sheet, and that's what you just read from, right? And that's the 100% or the 50%?
I'm gonna go recalculate that just so I know what I am actually talking about right now.
Okay.
When I look at that.
So we believe the 50% is on the second page.
That's on
The
the
numbers on the
back
second page are
Yes,
half
that does
of the numbers on the
seem
first
right.
page,
So what we would expect in the full taxes, page
Printed it, but I
1,
wanted to say where I was at.
with the IFT, we're
Yes.
talking page 2.
There we go, say, yes, sorry.
And what I heard earlier was, this is not a complete forbearance of taxes, but it's an abatement of some taxes.
It's not a full abatement of total taxes, correct?
All right, so the township and other taxing authorities would retain some tax revenue for the course of the 12 years in which they have asked for the
Correct.
IFT.
It actually comes out to about 14 years because you have 2 years of construction that they'd be allowed to have, and then they would have their 12 years.
Okay.
But that's why you're gonna see those two different numbers.
And
The
then
full amount is the 12 years.
at the end of year 14 then, it's full taxation.
Mhm.
And is this all taxes within the taxing authority, or all taxing authorities within the geography, I guess?
So all of our taxing entities that we collect for, except for state education tax. State education tax, or SET tax, is held whole. So they would, the state tax commission would have that option to be able to exempt them from those. But I have not seen one approved in a long time where they had that.
Yeah. So for the public to understand, page 1, the full taxation in sum of all of the taxing authorities is just north of $1 million. And obviously at 50%, it's just north of $500,000 on page 2, so the reduction. I just want people to have
Right.
in their mind the amounts we're talking about here, and I'm happy to share this with folks who are interested. Anyone else you wanna have speak before we open the public hearing?
Yeah.
All right, team, I would propose we do the same thing if that works for you all. So I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I move and open the public hearing.
I'll support it.
We have a motion and a second, and the motion is to open the public hearing, again, specifically on the taxation abatement, the industrial facilities exemption certificate that has been petitioned to us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so the public hearing is officially open. Again, any taxing authorities, any friends, any foes, anybody in the audience who wants to talk about this piece of it, again, the taxation piece of the district we just discussed, about the project we discussed before that. It's like a Russian doll. Or Turkish doll.
I was wondering, George Baker, State Road. I was wondering, how we came up with the 12 years, if that's, I know it's 1 to 12 years, correct? So they apply for a 12-year, or how does that work out? Is that what they request? Okay. Just wondered, so the board could,
That is what they requested. I don't think, I've already heard
no.
that.
No.
So the board could adjust that?
If they so wanted to.
Other questions from folks? Those dollars I gave are annual, right? So this is the annual taxation we're talking about, so pretty large amounts.
Compared to current tax?
I'm sorry?
Currently, tax is, I think there was a number there too, right? 2022.
Currently what the property tax is actually? Yeah, the actual land tax would go to ad valorem tax and would actually uncap. Currently, it has a PA 260 on it, which is farmland, gonna continue to be farmland, but then that would be removed from that once that happened. And so that, the land would actually be taxed separately from the IFT. So.
My question was, if nothing was done there, what is the tax that you would be getting for the township total?
At the current rate,
Current zone.
I don't have that in front of me. I know that it's, that it was not, is that currently this year it's not uncapped of taxable value. And what that means is the year after the property is purchased, the taxable value will uncap to that state equalized value unless expressly exempt. And there's an exemption in place right now on that property of a PA 260, which is that farmland gonna continue to be farmland. So that it has a lower taxable value based off of what it was prior to the current owner purchasing it. I know that he had a few years where he did not have a PA 260 in place, where he did pay a higher tax rate off of the taxable value, not off of millages. So those are two different things in play here.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Other questions from, or concerns, comments, anything you'd like to bring to the table?
George?
we've done this in other areas?
Bath Township has had two different IFTs. One of them was, I want to say in 2002 for sliding systems on M78 Saginaw. Theirs expired and they are still a viable company to this day. We had one other one, which is one addition on our BSNA software company that holds in Bath Township. And they had one of their wings that they facilitated an IFT for, and they will be expiring this year. So this, and they are still a viable company within our municipality.
Thank you, great question.
So I'll turn this back over to you to close your public hearing.
All right, last call for public comments, questions? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
I will support that.
A motion and a second, any discussion? The motion is to close the public hearing on the IFT. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the public hearing is closed. I do, Beth, have some questions now that the public hearing is closed. The question about could we choose a time frame under 12 years? Would the petitioner have to re-petition with a different petition that listed that number, or can we adjust the petition that they have submitted?
I know that it just states that you can choose between 1 and 12. I don't know if they would have to re-petition. Do you know that, Lizzie?
I don't know the answer
Okay, and I've read through the act and stuff, but, I have not seen one that was less than 12 years. And I don't know that an applicant would say, hey, I only want 5 years, let me, so, I honestly can't answer that question if they'd have to re-petition.
Okay, thanks. Could you, for next meeting, get us a run of the land tax as well? The property tax and what that would generate? And then I think the question of comparison was really helpful. Without any development, what you anticipate the taxation would be?
So can I just clarify that for a minute?
Yeah.
So do you want that as it currently is with the PA 260 on it, or would you like to have that without a PA 260 on it and just having it be an uncapped parcel that's sold?
Is it possible to do both? Is that a look, meaning it's gonna take you hours to do that?
Nope.
Okay, good.
Nope.
I know why you're asking the
I
question.
just wanna not answer, I'm gonna answer the right thing and not have it be.
Yeah, and I think if you give it to us both ways, the likelihood one of us will be like, what about this? Next time is decreased, and I know you've been in that situation with us before.
Okay.
Other questions, for Beth? Karen?
Not a question for Beth, but a statement as to how the rest of this process will unfold. You will have, what you had in front of you tonight was the SUP, as well as the two, the district being created and the IFT being approved. Those will come back for action to you at your next meeting in December. That timing is key, and in working with LEAP and in working with the MEDC, we're on a very tight time frame, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't take the time to do what we need to do, which is get the answers to our questions and address the public's answers to their questions. What I'm indicating to you is that our votes will be key to the rest of the process unfolding. The MEDC will be looking at what this community is doing at the next meeting and how we're voting. Their strategic fund will be looking at the incentive that they're currently offering to the company, and they will be looking at the incentive they're offering to us for the sewer infrastructure. And that meeting will occur on the 12th. So they're very much watching and waiting for us to make decisions at this time. And so I think it's important, this process that we're going through is very important to our community in multiple ways. So I appreciate the work and the questions that were asked tonight, and we'll work hard to bring back the information that wasn't able to be presented tonight so that we can have the full picture before we vote next time, before you all vote next time.
Great. This feels comprehensive and moving quickly.
Both are correct. A lot of staff time has gone into this, a lot of meetings and a heavy lift of something that I have not seen the likes of during my time with Bath Township, but this is big.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board before we move on from this topic? All right, well, thanks to my colleagues for their attention during those two public hearings. We're gonna roll into a third public hearing tonight. If you have only been here for the Norm Fastener's work and you want to silently slide out, no one will judge you, but just please do silently slide out because we're going to keep moving here. So on our agenda next is the public hearing for our 2024 fiscal year budget. I'm going to ask for an introduction from Superintendent Hildebrandt, and then we'll do the same thing, open it. This isn't silently, folks.
It's not bad, though.
I should turn it to Kate as a school teacher to use your school teacher skills. All right, thank you. Thanks for coming, everyone. So I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Hildebrandt, and then we're going to move right into exactly what we just did with the other two public hearings for a third public hearing.
Great.
Superintendent.
So we have, over the course of several months, as you recall, we have met on this budget and made changes to several different drafts. So the last draft that you all saw was the board draft. You had determined,
No, could you usher them out?
They're leaving.
Could you hush them, Taylor?
Hush them. Shut them up.
George
George
is
got
on
it.
it.
Attaboy, George.
Sorry for the distraction. So many of the changes that were identified by you were in areas of where stipends had been given for vehicles that needed to be moved to benefits, and there were some other calculations that needed to be completed in the spreadsheet. So what you have before you is most likely, unless changes occur as a result of the people left in the room tonight, is what you will probably adopt at your next meeting. So given that, we didn't make a great deal of changes, so the last version is pretty close to what you're seeing here tonight.
Great. So what we're looking for from the public is questions, concerns, support, advice, whatever they want to tell us about the budget specifically.
Correct.
All right. Any comments from the board before we entertain opening the public hearing? All right, then I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing on the fiscal year '24 budget.
So move.
We have a motion?
Support.
And a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the public hearing is now open. Hopefully you have seen the budget, or there's copies available, I believe. Here's your chance to share your thoughts about the budget. So if you do, please line up at the lectern and have at it.
George Baker State Road, East Lansing. I just wanted to make a comment. Do you have a line item in there for the roads?
I do, it's in the Department of Public Works.
And the amount is?
$600,000?
$600,000?
I just wanted to thank the board for many years, past boards and current board, and those that support our roads here in Bath. We've made major investments over the last year, especially in the last couple of years, and I'm very thankful, and I know there are other residents that travel our roads that are very thankful
Correction, $800,000.
for that investment. So, thank you very much.
It was.
And is that due to the project carrying over?
So Webster Road is part of that project. Chandler Road Planning is also part of that, but predominantly the Webster Road project.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. I just wanted to show how much I appreciate that as a resident.
Thanks, George.
My name's Terry Klein. I live on Hunter Road, 8135, just down from Jack. So we all woke up real early last Wednesday morning. It's guns of Navarone. I know you've worked really hard on this budget, and I know the seniors are just bananas about what's not in there for them. But if you notice sometime this week, Wednesday, they're doing a 2-seating dinner for the Thanksgiving dinner. They could implement that and actually deal with more seniors in the same space, but they actually do need more freezer, cold room space in order to do anything. But if they did 2 seatings like every restaurant does, and every commercial person does, they would be able to help themselves a little bit. And so they're trying it, and we'll see how it goes. But you guys have worked really hard on this budget. You've done a good job of trying to address everything. And so don't take the fact that they want, $1 million to, create a Taj Mahal somehow on space that's limited. Understand that they want to make sure they're not forgotten. And I technically am a senior, but I'm way too active to slow down to go to dinner. I keep getting asked, why don't you come to lunch? Because I'm usually in the middle of one project or another. And if I can help in any way, let me know. I did big budgets with big numbers of employees. Thankfully, the department shrank since then, so there's more money for other things. But it's very hard to suddenly pick up with 3 brand-new people, figure out where everything is going, who's on first and what's on second. And you've all done a good job. I wish things hadn't happened the way they did, because right now you got a board that is almost half people who are not elected, and that can create problems down the line. But I look forward to helping with anything I can in the next year. I just am not home long enough to volunteer for any of the board positions. I can't do anything because I'm gone 3 and 4 and 5 months of the year. And when I'm slow down from that, then I could be able to have help. But no, it's been a very good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
May I? I appreciate your comments. We often do the 2 seatings for the special dinners, Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. They are well-attended. I am certainly open to looking at a proposal next year, bringing a proposal to this board about how we can better utilize outdoor refrigerator and freezer space so that we do have the ability to buy more food and prepare more food for the center. And only at that time do I believe that we would have the capacity, food-wise, to be able to seat two schedules of lunch. Or people that are eating in-house and people that are taking to-goes. So that space can be reimagined, and I hope to bring that to you next year.
Great. Other members of the public have questions, comments? Last call? All right, sounds like no more. So I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion to close the public hearing? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the public hearing is closed. This is not your last chance to give feedback on the budget. Certainly, you can reach out to board members. You can reach out to our staff about that. The time is closing for you to give that feedback. So in the next couple of weeks here, we'll be shoring things up for a vote on December, is it 2nd? 5th? December 5th. So that's, certainly we can make changes that night as well. But it's easier to print things up if we have changes beforehand. So
December 4th.
December 4th, thank you. So if you've got suggestions, I just want the public to know, you can still forward those on. Any last comments about budget, Superintendent?
I will be preparing the resolutions for you to bring you the approval process for the budget, adopting the budget. There are several that go, at least 6 resolutions that go along with the approval of our budget. And if any of you have any questions, Kate, I know you're new, please reach out and ask me if you don't understand what anything is. For some of you, you've seen this before, and for some of you, it's new.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Kate, I'd encourage you to spend some time with Karen over the next couple of weeks. Grab an hour and head to her office and walk through this, because it's months of work here that I know you'll want to get plugged into. All right, any other comments about budget? All right, let's keep moving then. We are still on items for action, request to sell unused time, municipal employees retirement system. Superintendent Hildebrandt to kick that off.
Thank you. At your last meeting, you saw a request from 3 employees that were concerned about our municipal employee retirement plan and changes that we need to make over the next probably couple of months. They're concerned about there being a frozen final, why can't I remember it? Final average compensation. I apologize for not remembering that. We say FAC all the time, so sometimes it's difficult to remember what it stands for. So they're concerned about the FAC being frozen, which would limit the amount that their final retirement would be calculated on, and they're asking for the ability to sell some leave time that they have banked. They can bank up to 960 hours, and they can buy out half of that sick time. And actually, I believe there are 4 employees that would qualify for this. The 4th one, I have not been able to speak to because she has been on leave for a little bit. So I am sure if I could offer this to her, she may be able to buy into that too, because I expect that she would retire in the next 3 to 5 years.
All right. Questions from the board?
Go ahead.
So, somewhere in the budget, you must have, I don't know if this was redone to calculate this or not yet, the cost?
It has not. So it, I haven't, that's all I'll say. I haven't calculated it.
But based upon my looking at the budget and some of the decisions we made on some other expenditures, I believe that there's plenty of room to make this happen. That's correct?
That's my assumption as well.
Okay.
There is money in the department's benefit line items that would, I believe, be able to absorb this.
Okay.
So what is the policy about selling sick time?
So they can, upon termination, and that could be them resigning or retiring, they are able to sell half of the accumulated sick time in their bank for a maximum of 960 hours. Is it 960?
960, 480.
Okay, so they can buy out 480 hours.
Okay, so if we said 480 hours, there's perhaps 4 employees,
Correct.
so that would be 1,920 hours. Do you have like an average hourly rate we could use to calculate?
They'd all be at different rates, so.
Yeah, like something in the middle,
Go 20,
so $38,400.
but it would be spread across 4 different line items.
Yeah. That's an estimate, to be clear, but rough to get an idea of what we're talking about.
Three different line items, I apologize, there's 2 in the police department.
Right. Okay, do you feel like you've got your head wrapped around this?
I just have 2 questions.
Sure.
Question number 1 is, why is the freeze happening?
So it's not
supporting all this?
necessarily happening.
Okay.
We discovered in June of this year that our contribution as employees would be moving from 19.96%, and that's a required percentage, and it'll be moving to at least 25%. In an effort to stop the bleeding of our retirement plan on the shoulders of our employees, I have had employees approach me and tell me that they would no longer be able to work here if that is the contribution coming in the new year. So we had asked the retirement system to do some actuarials that would help soften, still maintain the great benefit that we would have in retirement, but to soften the economic, I call it a hardship because at this point, people are putting potentially January 1st, 25% mandatory of their paycheck into their retirement plan. The township matches that at 11%. So understanding that, the actuarials were run, one actuarial was run with a frozen FAC, one was ran actuarially without the frozen FAC. So the employees are concerned that if we choose the route with the frozen FAC, it limits their ability to, while they are still working here for the next 3 years, attain a higher amount for that FAC to be based upon.
Mr. Supervisor?
Oh, go
I
ahead.
would just add that although a frozen FAC is one of the biggest ways to achieve cost savings when making changes to plans for both parties, if there's any consideration to, how are we tinkering with the plan design, which is the bigger project that's being worked on. It's not the other option is called termination FAC, which essentially is still the same concept as your normal FAC, that I just keep earning and whatever my best 3 or my best 5 as the plan may require, it is what it is. The complication with the frozen is that it basically takes a snapshot in time, and that's the benefit allocation, and then you start like a new concept. And although, again, that would be certainly a larger cost savings to everyone, it does have the impact, as indicated in Chief Smith's and the counterside memo, of that's an impact to your retirees in their future years. I did see in the materials that the individuals are indicating they would only seek to do that cash out if there is a frozen FAC. I think that's an important element to consider here, that this is a conditional approval that you're being asked to provide. And the second element is, and I have to admit, I failed to follow up on this, that we had spoken last time about some ideas for how to avoid the January 1 doomsday scenario, that there certainly could still come before you a request to essentially hold the employees harmless for these additional contributions until this is sorted out on the other piece of it. And so that's still something that can come before you and avoid this concern of, well, I gotta get a new job by December 1st because I can't afford 25% toward the retirement. So I'm sorry for that, I apologize for that falling off my list. We'll continue to work on that with staff, or start working with staff on that.
But for the retiree-specific piece, they've got to make that decision by the end of this calendar year?
That's my understanding.
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Chief Smith and his cohort are going to have to cash in before December 31st?
Under your current policies, unless you were to, again, like we've talked about with our board rules, unless you were to decide to make a one-time exception given the scenario, yes.
Because that's kind of all up in the air right now, what I'd like to do is give consideration for any of those that are under contract that may require a 30-day notice, which makes it I gotta let you know like tomorrow, not, you know, real close, to be able to waive that. Waive that 30-day requirement notice.
I'm not sure that solves our problem
It
because.
it doesn't solve our problem at all, but it just gives a little bit more, I guess, peace of mind.
Understood.
No, I don't think it solves the problem at all, but I think it gives a little peace of mind of, hey, you know, when you sit down at the family table and go, look, I gotta make this decision next week, as opposed to waiting to see how
Certainly,
okay.
certainly.
So Jack, you're saying that in our contractual employees' contracts, it says they have to give us 30 days' notice before they do that?
In one of them, I know.
Okay. Do you think that's all of them? Well, some of them don't have contracts, right?
No, just one.
Okay. Great, thank you. Go
Well,
ahead,
just,
Sherry.
so what Chief said, that the difference if he can do this or can't do this, and because of the guys that are older or near retirement, it would make $350 less a month for the rest of his life for retirement. So it's a huge deal for these 3 or 4 that are near the end of retirement.
Right, so
It's a
they're
lot.
just attempting to, if they're going to freeze at a higher number.
Correct.
Which they most likely would have attained down the road anyway. Now, I think maybe at the last meeting, Jack had asked, is this detrimental to anybody? And I don't remember what the answer to that question. If approving this, does it have a negative side effect for other employees?
I don't think so. The people that are within 3 to 5 years of retirement are the people that are listed here, including the one that I think would qualify for it. Most likely, when these people retired, they would get this payout anyway, so they're taking it early. I think the only effect is they're gonna get paid out at 480, and then they're gonna continue to accumulate sick time again, so that when they potentially leave us in 3 to 5 years, they could be back at that 480 again.
And I think you should also expect that your two union groups will ask for similar red circling as you've probably seen in your education side of bargaining, where they're going to say, we essentially want to be held harmless as well, we want to retain as much benefit as possible. So is there a potential? From the labor negotiator side, I would say, I think it is a showing of your hand about what you're willing to do, and you have some decisions to make. And that, based on what I understand from the township's position to this point, may be perfectly fine, because the township may be ready to say, we want to shoulder more of that anyway. So it could be a nothing burger, as we jokingly say in the office. But I want to be clear that you are kind of showing your hand about what the negotiations might lead to.
Yeah.
You do realize that you're forfeiting 452 hours if you sell it? So you won't have any sick time in case you would get sick?
They will.
They
The
know that.
4 individuals have 960 hours.
Yeah, but when you sell half of it,
Correct. They'll
You-
still
you
have.
lose the other half.
They'll still have 480,
I don't think so.
yes.
Yes.
It didn't at Michigan State.
Yeah, that's not how that normally works in
Do you have a thought?
other places.
I mean, I have to look at this specific language, but I tend to agree with trustee Rosencrantz that typically if we're doing a buyout, it is because we are wiping the liability out. As you said, they would continue to accrue thereafter. So we'd have to talk about what that looks like. That is the ordinary course when we are talking about a collectively bargained agreement. The case could be quite different with an employment agreement. We need to take a look at what the terms specifically require, and what our policies require as to those who do not have contracts.
I'm sorry, I didn't consider that. I was considering half. And so I wasn't considering that, I was considering the other half would still be there, but
That was our
obviously-
contract at Michigan State.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're buying out the whole thing at
You're
a
buying out the
50% rate.
960, correct.
Is there a way we could structure it that they can only buy out once? Like every other employee would only be able to buy out once. And to your point, if they continue to work and accumulate, they could then buy out half of whatever they have left. That does seem like an added expense to the township and something that's unfair to other employees. I think they should still earn sick time, obviously, but I think they should take it. But being able to cash out twice does seem like two dips at the pot.
I'm trying to remember the terms of the one contract that's at issue here, because that is a contract, and so we would need to make sure that we are being compliant. Certainly, the mutual intent of the parties when negotiating that particular employment agreement, as an advocate for this board, I would say was, this is a thing we are doing when you are leaving, so it is a one-time occurrence. So I would argue that's consistent with the party's intent, but I think in that particular case, we would still need the consent of that individual.
Thank you. Brenda?
What would happen if they had like 1,000 hours or 1,200 hours? They wouldn't lose that extra over the 9?
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's the most reasonable argument, because it's not impacted. They couldn't have done anything more with that right now.
How do they get more than 960?
Worked for 30 years and accumulated a lot.
But it wasn't maxed out. You're maxed out at payout.
What is the max out? 1,200?
I'll let Karen answer that.
So it's capped at 960.
It is capped at 960.
But you can
Correct.
carry more than 960?
We do have people that are carrying more than 960.
That's insane.
No, it's not.
It is.
How much are they accumulating every 2 weeks?
I understand, we're not gonna argue with the audience, but that is not how it works in the typical business world. I think we should look at changing our HR policies that you can't carry that much sick time.
What'd you say?
Part of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Which will come to you next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should hold our current staff harmless, but when we hire new staff, I think that is just an incredible amount of time to carry.
There, unfortunately, and I don't want to pass this along to somebody that's no longer with us, but things that were done by somebody that's no longer with us encouraged this to occur. And so the way of dealing with it has been to work through it with the human resources policy, the personnel handbook. And we have looked at those hours, but to date, it's still accruing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, staff here are hired in under an agreement and they've been doing things for that, and I don't think we should punish them for that, but certainly that is, I mean, that's a
I can
liability
appreciate
we're
that.
carrying on our books that I guess I didn't realize before. And I think the intent of the highest 3 years of pay was not to cash out time to make that higher, so I think there's an intent piece there. But I see that that's how it's working now, so I'll support our friends that are asking this, but I do think, I mean, I would ask that we hold off on voting until we figure out this 50% issue. Are we cashing it all out, or the second purchase of more time later issue? I think we should put that all wrapped up in one motion or one action. Do folks feel the same or differently on that?
Purchase time?
Figuring out the 50%, if they were making them cash it all out, or if they're only cashing half of it, and can they get paid out a second time down the road when they actually retire or leave?
Does not deciding on it tonight and pushing it to down the road impact their ability to make that decision before the end of the year?
I think they've got till
Timeline?
December 31, right?
Correct. Your next meeting would be December 4th,
Yep.
so.
And I would just, not that I want to kick the can, but I do want to clarify that those policies and that contract term are all subject to, the policy is subject to waiver for singular occurrences if you choose to do so. And the contract term, especially where it typically where it benefits the other individual on the other side of it, can mutually be agreed to move that term and say that you are not going to be obligated to make that decision in this year by 12/31 because of the current circumstances. And so I don't know if those conversations have occurred, but that is certainly an option before you, in my mind, barring other conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I think you two could turn that around before the next meeting, right? I think these folks seem incentivized to move things quickly. And I imagine they've already got an idea of how they want to handle this, so, you know, if on December 5th they have their option, I imagine most of them will know the way they want to go.
Is there any hope that the other actuarials will come back in a timely fashion?
I was told the second actuarial would be back to us by the 17th, and it's the 20th, and I've not seen it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I anticipated.
Are folks okay with that process? Moving this to the next meeting and getting some of these answers
Yeah.
shorn up?
We have to,
Well, I want what's best for them.
Yeah.
we have to.
I think it may change people's perspective on how to vote on this issue if we don't have those two things hashed out.
Sure.
And then maybe this waiving of the 30-day piece can be wrapped up in there as well, if that's necessary. So then on the 4th, we could just take care of it. Does that sound okay for folks?
Yeah, I think, yeah, yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments on the selling of unused sick time? All right. And Drive project deferment, Superintendent Hildebrandt.
Thank you. Of course, as you heard tonight from Managing Director Doug Steffen of the Clinton County Road Commission, they were not able to complete all of the projects this year, mainly due to weather, and I was shocked when I heard we had 20 rain events in October, which make the conditions unsuitable for the work that needs to be done. I do appreciate them allowing us the opportunity to carry it over and at a locked-in price. I did not anticipate that, but I think it was an important consideration for me, knowing that the amount of the project was $340,000. So I didn't want to throw $340,000 at a bad project and then have to do it soon after. So I appreciate them being open and honest with us. Reith Riley has agreed to hold the price for us, and they indicated when I talked with Doug last week that most likely this would be completed as one of the first projects in spring when they begin their work. The projects that were left over will be the first to be completed in 2024. So what I'm asking for you to do tonight is to defer the project and commit the use of the monies to 2024.
All right. Yeah?
The way it's been going, 15 to 20% increase every year. So you figure 15%
At
of
least.
$340,000 is what we're saving. I think it's a real good thing that they've done for us. I'd like to move to take the Drive project and move it on for next year. And Drive, Gary Lane, and Timothy.
Does that include using the ARPA funds for that next
Yes.
year? All right. So motion to move the project to next year and continue to use ARPA funds. Is there a second to that?
I'll support it.
All right. Is there more questions or discussion to be had? All right. We'll do a roll call on this one.
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Ms. Hagerman?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'd seek consensus from my colleagues here, since we've hit 9:01, to wrap up the rest of the agenda. We've only got one more item to discuss. It's not a vote, and then the superintendent's report and public statements. Is that okay if we keep moving? Before we've switched the rules to
Yep.
taking a vote, we'll just do consensus this time?
Go.
Great, all right. So items for introduction, discussion, under new business, Board of Trustees and committee meeting dates, superintendent.
Thank you. Actually, the deputy superintendent has put this together for the township. She does this every year, and obviously, there are a lot of meetings to track and keep track of. There are also a lot of holidays, which pushes the meetings to the next night. We would ask that in the next week or so, before the next meeting, so that we can have it prepared for your action, that you take a look at this and make sure, be a second set of eyes for us and a third set and a fourth set. I know each year you take a good look at it and make sure that it's accurate. So we would just ask for your help in making sure this is accurate. as the clerk will publish this in a paper of record, and it will become public at that time, so.
Questions from the group?
Where is this?
It's probably the last couple of
Should be the
pages
last
in your
page
packet.
in your
I
packet.
think it's the last 3 pages of your packet. Anytime we have we have 12 holidays that we observe. Anytime there's a holiday, it pushes a board meeting to the next evening. So that happens a couple of times, as well as for the planning commission. And sometimes those overlap, so we try to make accommodations for everybody so they can have their meetings.
Got it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, great. Thanks to you, Taylor, for putting that together. There are no items for action. That brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I will just note that it has been an interesting time around here with the Project Forge project. This has been a massive amount of work for my staff. I will tell you that Beth Backey, Miles Robler, the deputy superintendent, and kind of people from all over the township have touched this project in some meaningful way. There was a huge lift in asking for the infrastructure money for the sewer. Everybody worked diligently through that and accommodated me while I was on vacation. People have worked really hard on this, and I hope that that shows. This is not something we do every day. This isn't just, I mean, we considered the food bank a huge project. So, and this is massively more than that. So I really appreciate my staff and their dedication, and their nights and their time, because they're away from their families while they're doing this work. But I hope it shows, and I hope that it's a good project for this community. And that's all I've prepared for tonight. If anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them, or talk to me at another time.
Questions from the group?
Thank you.
All right, let's roll into public statement 2 then. Again, this is limited to 3 minutes, but for any topic you'd like to speak on tonight.
John Wright, Planning Commission. Just like to thank Ryan for running a very well-organized, orderly meeting. And thank you for the Board of Trustees, or to point people to the Planning Commission that, A, have experience and have been there for a while, especially George. He's been there for quite a while on this carryover, and we never knew one meeting to the next if he was still going to be there. Thank you very much. That was very prompt.
Thanks, Jen. Other public statements? All right, let's go to board member comments. Let's keep it pithy. Kate, do you want to start with your first board member comment? Make it really, really insightful.
Sure thing. I just wanted to say thank you for entrusting me to fulfill this role for the remainder of the term, and I hope that I'm able to represent the people of Bath Township as best I can.
Thanks. Yeah.
The road committee, would like to thank the board for staying with us, and we're trying our best to get our roads in good shape, and this does help.
I just want to let you know that the presidential primary now has a date. It's going to be February 27th, 2014.
27th, you said?
Yes, February 27th, 2024. I said 14.
You did.
I did.
We'll back up a ways.
I wish so, yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
Great, thank you for letting us know that. I'll just say welcome to Kate. It's exciting to have a full team. It's been a couple of months since we've been at full strength. Exciting to work with you all and serve the rest of this next year for our last term together, or at least perceived last term together, and do some really great things.
I'd just like to say thank you, Supervisor Fields-Bliss, for this well-run meeting. We got a lot accomplished. Thank you to my colleagues. Thank you to Madam Superintendent and Mini-Me for making all this stuff happen. I mean, there's a lot of work went into this. To get it all done in this amount of time, I think it was just phenomenal. So, thank you all.
Bring us home, Sherry.
Welcome, Kate. glad to have you aboard, and I'm still terribly concerned about the PFAS, and that if I understand right, they can have an unlimited amount of it, and this stuff is so dangerous. I will send you all the articles, and it doesn't sound like we can put any limit on it whatsoever by the contract that we are accepting. And this is a huge problem to me, from what I know about it. Like I said, I'll send you guys the information that I have and that I've studied on it, and it's just really scary for our whole water system, our wells, our aquifers, everything. So I don't know if we can say never PFAS, or if we do that, do we lose it all? I don't know. But that's really dangerous for us all.
I think that's a good question for Miles.
It's a scientist I think we need.
Yeah, like what are the limitations that we can put on?
What can we put
Yeah.
on the contractual thing, but a real scientist, a PhD, and this is such a huge problem. It scares me to death.
Thank you. On that note.
On that note, cheerio.
Have a good night. I'll look for a motion to.
Move the meeting be adjourned.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Yes, second.
Second from Sherry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I didn't say aye, but I am aye.
Another 5
Closed.
hours.
Do it.
I would like